Nathan, how the hell are you?
I am doing a-okay. I had a long work weekend because I had to work the holiday weekend, but it's done and over with, and I'm good to go. So can't complain too much. I have vacation the rest of the week. So
Oh, that's nice. For the whole week?
yep. So I don't have to go back to work until next Monday. So which is
Where
nice.
where do you work at?
A place called Corning Life Sciences here in Maine, and we're a big company. Basically, I build. Anytime you see a forensic show and they got the little dropper that they're putting into the petri dish.
Mhm.
I build the dropper. That's what I do. I build those.
All right, right on, right on. So you're from Maine. Have you grown up there? Were you born
Nope.
there?
Nope. I was born in Ohio, then
No
was raised.
shit.
Yep.
I live in Ohio. I'm sorry. What city?
I was born in Alliance, Ohio.
Okay.
I haven't lived in Ohio since I was 4. Most of my life was spent in Tennessee.
What was Tennessee like?
Uh well, when you're a shy, weird kid that doesn't like sports and hunting, which are the big thing for boys back then,
Mm-hmm.
growing up, you get picked on a lot. So
Oh
uh,
yeah. You look like somebody I wouldn't want to fuck with.
I get that a lot, but I am not that way. I am an introvert through and through.
Really?
Shy, quiet kid. I would rather be home, or if I'm out, I'd rather be with a small group of friends or by myself. I'm good. Which, yeah, everyone finds surprising, being that I'm the front man of a band. And it's like,
Exactly.
yeah, I know. It's a quite fun when you have slight social anxiety issues with your general anxiety, and you have to talk to people at shows.
You do. Yes. And not only do you have
Especially when you're always the one selling the merch.
you need to get yourself a merch girl.
Well, everyone else in the band has significant others. I'm the single one, but I'm
Mm,
also the one that usually sticks around till the end of the show because usually where we play, I'm the one that lives closest. So,
okay, fair enough. So when did you start doing vocals?
uh, let's see. Well, vocals, like actually performing live, are probably about geez, 2001. Before that, I was a trumpet player. I played trumpet
You play
from.
the trumpet.
Yep, I was a trumpet player. Played from 5th grade through my freshman year of college. And the nice thing about being a trumpet player comes in very handy actually being a vocalist because
Oh, because of the breath
all those
control.
all those wonderful breathing exercise, learn to breathe from the diaphragm and hold notes from the diaphragm. Oh, it's yeah. Everyone's always like, your screams, you hold them so long when you play live. How do you do that? I was a trumpet player. And every time I see vocalists hunch over and ball up and do it, I'm like, you're not going to get a lot of strength in that. I always lean back, and because that's what we had to do in trumpet. You just would lean back and open the throat, perfect airways. It was awesome. So I took a lot from my trumpet playing days and use it in my vocals nowadays.
So that's what the secret is. I just have to. I
And
was supposed to join band in high school, and then I would have figured it out by now. Dude, I was. That's funny that you say that because I was actually. Today I had the day off, so I was just fucking in a mood and getting wailing. You know what I mean? I was just
yeah,
singing, and I was actually able to keep it up like all day without blowing out my throat, which is really hard for me to do. So I'm trying to like teach myself how to do metal vocals again because I had tried
yeah.
doing them back in the day, but I fucked up my throat, so I had to stop for a while. Now I'm like, man, I really want to try to do that. So is there like a specific breath technique that you would recommend for, say, black metal vocals, the high pitched kind of like scream, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Because that's what I have trouble with. That shit always hurts my throat. And it's like, how do you do that? I can do more death metal stuff
mm.
without using my throat. But when you try to do like black metal screams, like, how do you do that without
Oh,
fucking up your shit?
I do get some high shrieks, but strangely mine are more from my love of sludge metal, like
Hmm.
guys like Mike Nine from I Hate God with his little weird gnarled shriek, or Today Is the Day is Steve Austin's shriek that he does. As far as that, I have a hard time. Get people ask me all the time the breathing stuff, and I'm just like, I don't know. I just kind of remember the little breathing exercises we just have to do, and I just do a couple of those and do a couple of little shorts and ha and whatever, and then I just go. I've been doing this about 20 years off and on, so it's just, and as I said, a lot of it comes from my diaphragm and just holding it.
Hmm.
A lot of people, they try to do it from their throat, and that's why they blow it out, or
Yeah, yeah.
they can't sustain. And I have a hard time explaining. I've had so many people ask me that, and when it comes to my high scream, I actually can hold my mid and high screams longer than I can my gutturals.
Oh, really?
Gutturals gutturals are really hard to hold for me. I don't know why. I've just always had a hard time to hold them for long, but I can shriek for good 30 seconds. Like on our album, I don't know how much you've listened to it,
I
but
listened to a few songs today. I actually really enjoyed it.
none of those vocals are edited. There's no like, oh, we're gonna try to
Like at
shred.
all?
No. And I did all those in one day.
Dude, that's fucking awesome.
One
You
day.
you guys kind of have like a deicide vibe. Like you kind of remind me of Glenn.
Cool. Appreciate it. It
Yeah.
was That's a new one. When we actually recorded all the guitars and vocals with Steve Austin of Today Is the Day. He lives up here,
Oh, okay.
even though he's originally from Tennessee too, and we have mutual friends. It's weird. So it was fun to record with him. But yeah, we're doing vocals, and he was like, "You got like a cool vibe. It's like Barney from Napalm mixed with Mike from I Hate God." And those are two of my favorite vocalists. So I was just like, yes.
Dude, that's cool.
I like Glenn's vocals too. He has a cool style too. So I appreciate that. And yeah, we're a bunch of older heads. I'm the youngest one in the band at 38. All the rest of my bandmates are mid 40s.
Hmm. I think
So
most people with exceptional taste and appreciation for like real metal, if I can use the term, are around that age. I'd say I identify more with the tastes of older people.
when
I mean, you're not that much older than me. I'm 32, so but
I
yeah.
have my older brother's 41. The second youngest in my band's my guitarist Russ. He's 43. When I auditioned 5 years ago, he was kind of like, he looks young, huh? And so I hadn't heard any music, and they just jammed it out, and I was like, dig it. That's like a Suffocation meets Obituary vibe. And he just went, and I just saw him kind of perk up more, and he's like, oh, okay, he knows what we're going for. Because up here, there's more. There's still a lot of metalcore, which obviously it's New England. It's still quite popular. I like older metalcore. I'm very picky about it. Like I still like Unearth and Killswitch. I listen to everything. It's ridiculous.
Mhm.
But there's some good bands up here, and then there's others that are just kind of like,
Questionable.
uh, th- their enthusiasm's there. Sometimes they jump the gun on playing out live. They need to woodshed and rehearse more. Like
Mm.
we've only had one member change with our drummer, and before he even did a live show with us, we rehearsed. Once he joined, we rehearsed for with him to make sure everything was tight, like a good Jesus, like 4 or 5 months before we started playing out again, because we just wanted to be tight and make the songs organic. We're a little bit old school that way. It's like we jam a bit. Granted, this year it's been next to impossible, but
When was your last
no,
show?
early February. It was like the first weekend of February is the last show we've had, and we've had about 4, maybe 5 full band rehearsals since. We were supposed to have one a couple weeks ago, but my bassist uh, had to go to the hospital. His heart was bothering him. And then last week before Thanksgiving, we are going to make a makeup one, but then my guitar stepson was possibly exposed to COVID, so he had to quarantine for about basically we're going to try again this Thursday, which is our usual practice day is
Hmm.
Thursdays. But no, we rehearse. We used before all this went down. We rehearse like 2 days a week, pretty much regularly, and 3 hours each night. So we uh we rehearse quite a bit, and around here there's some good bands that we like to play with, and then there's some that we're friends with the guys, but not the biggest fan of their music. But
Hmm.
they're our friends, but so we still support them. So
Yeah.
there's actually becoming a really big black metal scene up here too.
Really?
Yeah, well, it kind of makes sense. It's New England. It gets winter around
Yeah, I
here.
guess so, huh?
Winter around here sucks.
It's about
This,
as grim as you're gonna get in the US.
oh yeah, even though the last couple winters haven't been that bad,
Hmm.
it's been rather mild by my standard. Even though I crack up, I hear so many. As I said, I grew up down south, so
Hmm.
and when I hear them all complaining about the weather, I'm like, I can handle this weather way better than you guys. What's with that?
That's
I
funny.
think it's the Midwestern blood makes it so I can handle it because we have mountains and woods out here. Midwest, it's flat. There's nothing.
Yeah, there's not shit out here. I
Uh,
really miss the fucking mountains, dude. I used to
I
go like camping all the time, and
oh
now
nice.
there's like nothing out here.
I haven't been to a Midwest winter since I was probably about 6. My parents are both originally from Iowa, so I've been there during Christmas time when we were younger for family and stuff. And I remember it was flat, cold as shit because the wind is howling because there's nothing blocking it like the mountains and trees here.
Hmm.
I'm closer to the coast here, so the coast wind can be a little. You go outside and you're not prepared, and you're automatically going, "Fuck, that's cold."
You're getting those fucking wind chills in your face.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I don't. There, a lot of people guys do the fall winter beards around here, and I'm like
Mm.
all year round, and that's been fun with the face mask at work.
Oh God, that sucks. I know a couple of people that have like considered trimming their beards for that reason.
I did trim mine up in end of March, but I was doing my usual once a month trim anyway, and I fucked up, so I had to just shorten it all the way down. But yeah, I haven't touched it since. But I'm like, everyone keeps saying, "Why don't you cut?" I'm like, no, not gonna.
Good.
I'll suffer through it, like I've done a lot of other things.
I think it's the equivalent of like a long-haired dude cutting his hair short because all of you consider it at some point, and then it's just full of regret fucking afterwards.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah, so
Even though
I don't know who needs to hear this, but don't fucking cut your hair.
anytime any of my friends with long hair, guys, friends consider cutting their hair, I say, don't fucking do it. I did that, and I never got to grow it back again. Well, I started to, but unfortunately, instead of getting the bald spot in the back, mine went in the front, so I had no choice but to go bald. So
Yeah,
that
but
was
you can pull off the bald head though.
yeah.
I feel like that's the second metal look is the Kerry King look, which you totally are vibing on.
Basically, yeah, and I've gotten that, and when I used to just do a goatee when I was younger, I got Scotty in a lot too. So
Okay, I can kind of see I can see some Scott Ian.
I think I'm more like Scotty Ian in personality wise than Carrie because I'm a big comic book fan. So
Are you? You're a very eclectic individual. Like you have a lot of cool different interests. I know you're really into reading, and what are some other
yes,
hobbies that you like to enjoy?
I am very. My family. I came from a very scholarly family. My mom's a retired high school teacher, primarily Spanish. She was also an English teacher and English as a second language teacher. And my dad's actually a retired minister. So
Really?
yeah, I got really lucky in that. And my parents, they're very open minded. My dad's really big into history. So that's where my love of history came from. Is so I grew up surrounded by books. We had books. Very kind to remember it because I was really little. It was actually my older brother said this when we were out on a trip to the store, mall, bookstore, whatever. And I wanted to get something, and parents were like, how parents are like, do you deserve it? Blah blah blah. My brother actually apparently said to me, if you ask for a book, they'll get it for you. They will always get us books, which is true. So And that's what I get my kids all the time, mostly is books instead of toys, because I encourage them to read, and my kids are very active with that. But no, I read a lot from sci-fi, history, world history, horror, music history. I have a I love collecting music history books and biographies. And as I said, a big comic book writer. I don't have as comic book fan. I don't have as many comic books as I used to. When you become a parent at a young age, certain you have to give up certain things. So I don't have as much as I used to. But very, this is how many books we had in the family at one point. So with ministers, they get assigned different churches every couple of years or so.
Mhm.
One move for dad from one church to the other, one trip alone with the biggest U-Haul trailer truck you could get. Just one of those was just filled with dad's books.
Wow,
Just dad's books.
that is impressive.
Yeah, dad has quite a bit, and it goes from everything from religious books to his vast American Civil War book collection, Romans, Greeks, you name it. I have very vast. That's why, like, I even mentioned to you when that message, like that show Barbarians on Netflix.
Mhm. Oh, I love that show.
I was like, oh, I know she kind of likes this stuff, but this,
Yeah, I thought it was really cool that you mentioned that, because I had talked to somebody else recently that I was like, dude, have you seen this show? And they're like, yeah, it's really fucking good. And it's like that last fucking scene where they're having the battle and he's narrating it, and there's something kind of weird going on,
yep. Oh
and
yeah,
so it's like all this.
I watched the whole season in one day. I was just like, this is awesome.
So did
Why can't they do
I.
more shows with this? And the fact that it's based on real people makes it even cooler for me, because
Hmm.
that history's getting. I have some German in me on my mom's side, so I've never really studied it as much. So I've been getting more into that as I've gotten older,
Hmm.
trying to study German history. I'm pretty good on English, Scott, and Irish, because that's the rest of me. All the stubborn white countries with the dry sense of humor and sarcasm is where I get my genes from, which
Okay.
works, as I said, being kind of shy and very introverted and being the weird kid growing up. Sarcasm became the defense mechanism. My brother's worse than me, even though he's a lot more of an extrovert. He's much more outgoing than I am by a long shot. But yeah, growing up in Tennessee, it was it was weird because I'm a big dinosaur kid. I was a big dinosaur nerd growing up. I still keep up with it, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, all the advances in this stuff. I can't even keep up. It's like every day they have all this new stuff and that, and I'm just like, and I have other friends that are just as big a dinosaur nerds, and they're even more hardcore metal guys than I were. Like one of them, he was friends with Fear Factory before they got signed back in the early '90s. He saw him in the house shows in LA and stuff.
That's cool.
We talk dinosaurs all the time. I love it. You'd see us and you would not think us being dinosaur people and the slightest, but we love that stuff. And so yeah, all that stuff with just being shy and having the weird hobbies with the love of history and science and art and literature, and like the joke, old Bill Hicks joke, talking how he's in a Waffle House outside of Nashville, and they're like, "What you reading for?" And it's like, the first time I heard that, I was just like, "Oh shit!" Because I've kind of had those experiences myself, which is like, "What are you reading for? You're reading for fun. You're not. You only read, like, the mentality a lot of times is you read because you're assigned the books. No, I like to read because I like to read. Like I read Jurassic Park when I was in like seventh grade, which granted, a seventh grade kid should not be reading Jurassic Park at all, the actual novel, because it's rated R. I
Is it?
it's
I didn't know that.
oh the book is very violent. It
Really?
oh yeah.
Okay, I would like that. I too am a
Right,
fan of dinosaurs.
Crichton being a medical person, he was being a doctor before he became the writer, yeah, there was some very in-depth descriptions of the wounds. And yeah, when I like growing, yeah, I did deal with creationists growing up.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh my God, the stories I have being a preacher's kid and dealing with
Oh, that must have been fun.
it's like sometimes it's like, don't argue with the preacher's kid, please. We're gonna school you on so much of this stuff. I was raised Methodist. I'm agnostic now, and my dad totally understands why.
Mhm.
But Methodists are tend to be a little bit more of one of the Protestant churches that are a little bit more open-minded and not as close-minded. But growing up in the South around a lot of Southern Baptist, Church of Christ, and other evangelicals, growing up and them seeing you long hair, wearing all black all the time. Oh yeah, I got questioned quite a bit.
I'm sure.
So, and it's just like, so yeah, when you say he's like I look like someone you went on a fuck with, and I'm like, I got that a lot, and I still do, but it's just like, no, I look at that. It's basically my appearance is kind of a defense mechanism for the fact that I am a mostly shy, awkward guy because I don't feel tough at all. And heavy metal, over especially, is basically how I get out when I do feel aggression. And it's a form of therapy because, as I said, we've talked obviously, like we've mentioned our mutual love for Oingo Boingo, which I love 80s music. I love that stuff. That's my eclectic music taste and stuff. So it's just like, but metal is where I get out some of the therapy to the stuff that basically gives me my excuse to scream all the shit is, even though my lyrics might not be about that. If I'm feeling pissed about something, I use the channel to go through that. That's
Yeah,
part of
of course.
that's been my therapy for the longest time. So
What do you like to write about?
uh obviously us being death metal, very, I always just call us like the death thrash because we do have a lot of thrashiness and
Mhm.
we like to groove a lot too. We all have a love of doom metal too. We're all huge crow.
Yeah, it's very, very doomy. I noticed that.
We all have a very big love of bands like Crowbar, and my bassist and I are just like, we love doom in all its shapes and sizes. Like I'm a huge Paradise Lost and My Dying Bride fan. But when it comes to what I actually write about, I like, so many bands. There are already so many bands doing the horror and gore. It's like I'm never gonna overtop any of that. I'm not even trying. Like when I first started trying to write metal lyrics when I was in high school, yeah, they were like that, and they were just awful and cheesy. I started trying to take more inspiration for my writing lyrically from my non-metal bands and artists I love, like Paul Simon and Tom Waits and Nick Cave
Oh,
are
that's
some.
awesome, dude. I love
Those
Tom
are
Waits
some
and
of
Nick
my.
Cave.
Oh,
Fuck
fucking
yeah, dude.
love all that stuff. Paul Simon's why I wanted to play music. Max Cavalera made me want to sing in a metal band when I was growing up.
Fucking Sepultura, dude.
Oh yeah, Chaos City.
Oh, good
I
shit. Good
yeah,
fucking shit.
that was kind of basically like I can do that. So, but when I come to writing, I still make it horror based because it's death metal, but I make it more real life horror. One of our songs is about the, I can never say the actual correct name for it because I'm horrible at pronouncing Japanese names, but the woods in Japan that are famous for the mass
Oh
suicide.
yeah, the Suicide Forest.
Mhm.
I can't remember what it's called right now, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, our song "Forest of the Dead" is about that place. I've always been when I first heard about it, I was fascinated by it and more about the history. And I know there's tons of ghost stories, and a lot of people are
Hmm.
scared of it because of. I'm like, I want to know why they feel like this is the place they need to go. So, but yeah, I have a song about that. The song I gave you today, "The Consuming," that one's, it can be mental. It can be taken different ways, but basically, it's about being consumed by something inside you that's overpowering you, whether it's rage, depression, suicidal thoughts, jealousy, all that's a real world horror to some people, being consumed by something that they think they have control over. I have another song, Needle Teeth, that is a combination of two things. I hate hypodermic needles. I'm one of those guys. I cannot watch the if I'm getting a shot or blood drawn. I can't watch it go in. Once it's in, I'm fine. But
Do you
if I
have
watch,
tattoos?
oh yeah, yeah,
So
I'm
how
fine
does
with
that
that.
work?
I know. I used to have more piercings in my ears than when I was younger. Those needles are fine because it's like in out in out. It's like the pumping in and pumping things in and out of me.
Okay. So you don't
That
like the feeling of the pressure or just the concept of something being injected into your veins?
basically, yeah, and that's why I've never done hard drugs and never will do hard drugs because that
It's
involves
for the best, definitely.
yes, yes, it is.
What kind of
Uh,
drugs have you tried, if I can ask?
I will admit I've done mushrooms twice, and that is literally it.
Really?
That is it.
No way.
That's it.
Dude, I just sparked
Never.
a J right now.
I
I just got some mushrooms. I'm gonna be tripping
I
hopefully
did
tomorrow.
I did those when I was super young, so I haven't done anything since. I don't even drink anymore.
And I'm having some alcoholic eggnog. I do the things. I do all the things. I mean, not all the things, but
Yeah, it's just not my thing. I used to drink. I have reasons for not drinking, but it's not like I had a problem. I was just kind of like, all right, man, I don't really need to do this. My vices are sugar and caffeine.
those are
I
equally
have
as unhealthy for you, Nathan. Those
oh,
are
I
very
know.
bad.
I know. They're just
Y-
as bad. They're just as bad.
sugar is more addictive than cocaine. Did you know that?
Yes, and so is cheese, and I love cheese.
Yeah, I try to stay away from dairy when I can because animals. I'm not vegan or anything, but I try
Mhm.
to not support certain things.
No, I get that. I'm just I'm an omnivore, but I'm definitely a probably from growing up in the South. I definitely like to eat some good barbecue. I can't help it.
Dude, I love barbecue. But
Um.
I want it to be like free range and grass fed.
Oh
They
yeah,
had to have a good life, hopefully.
yeah. It's a little bit easier up here. It seems a little bit more. There's farms for that stuff, so it's a little bit easier to find that stuff up
Oh,
here.
that's good.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. I live outside Portland, so it's very progressive would be the nice word to put it without being all
Oh, super
hipster.
political.
Hipster, very hipster, very hipster. But
Hipsters are at least you.
but for the most part in a good way. I'll say that much. Sorry, Portland, my Portland friends, but the town's gotten very hipster and partly gentrified. Sorry. I have some friends here that have lived here their whole life, and they're like, "Holy crap, it's changing so much." I've been, I moved to Maine from California. Everyone's like, "Why?" I was like, dumb decisions," but I love it here now. So,
I
but
miss
anyway,
Cali.
back to where, man. See, this is what happened. I've only done like 3 other interviews ever, music related, with my old band in Cali. So I haven't done an interview in a while. So I can be
Oh no, it's dude. This is a conversation. Talk about
yeah.
whatever you want to talk
Okay.
about.
Okay. I'm just saying. I'm like, oh man, I do this all the time because I don't. I don't talk a lot. I guess about
Neither
myself.
do I. Neither do I. So I think it's cool that I have like people like you that are willing to come on and just
Hmm.
fucking bullshit with me. You know what I mean? I just want to have like in-depth casual conversations, not so much like a strict interview like
Okay.
tell
Cool.
me about your lineup change like
Oh
dude,
man, I would
um
do one of those. I've watched friends do that, and I'm just like, how many have you done of those today? Too many. Oh god. So
I don't want it to be boring, but I want to talk about shit that matters, shit that everybody can relate
yeah,
to.
all right.
I think pain is something that's constant that everybody can relate to, whether you're a person or an animal or fucking a little insect even.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the glue that's going to stick all these individual stories together, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So what do you struggle with? Do you struggle with depression? You mentioned anxiety earlier?
I have basically I have some generalized anxiety, a little bit of social anxiety because of the bullying,
Mhm.
depression. I that runs in both sides of the family, and I also have abandonment issues.
Okay. Where do you
Uh,
think those come from?
uh Well, it's kind of strange because I've always felt like the friend that people forget about easily or move on from really easily. A lot have don't have a lot of close friends, and even sometimes the close friends seem to just drift away, and it's just always like, why am I easy to forget? You know,
Right.
what? Or I'm always so there's that, and also probably even though I'm close with both my parents now, when my parents got divorced, it was about I was 5th grade when it happened. So, and I went when I was younger, I was closer to my mom, so I lived with my mom. I went with my mom, my brother stayed with my dad, and we
Mhm.
had dad joint custody and all that fun stuff. So, but there was a little bit of resentment and wondering what went wrong, and when you're that young, you tend to blame yourself
Yeah.
or you blame one of the parents, and when I definitely probably blame my dad because he's the one that broke the news to us. But I'm closer to my dad now. I've that kind of stuff I've kind of gone over. But no, those thoughts still linger. And as I said, being the shy kid, so when I get friends, to quote like from like Tommy Boys, like I get a new friend and a new toy, and I'm like get all excited, and then I just break it and fuck it up, and I always feel like what I do did I do something wrong for them? And just yeah, as my therapist has explained to me, you know, not all relationships last. They're it's gonna fade away. It's gonna break apart. I feel like I care too much. I'm a caring person too, which
Mhm.
contrary to the wild, crazy metalhead that some people have stereotypes, and with the people I work with, that happens all the time. I get
Oh,
that.
fuck yeah.
I've been at my job for 5 years, and some people are like, when I first saw you, I was just like, oh my God, he's just going to get his stuff. And you're just a smart ass. You're just a sarcastic, witty smart ass. And I'm like, yeah, thank you. That's how I am. I just look, as I said, I'm like, I feel like the least threatening member of my band. Like,
I don't
so,
know. I still wouldn't fuck with you.
I, well, I hope I at least would make you feel, now that you've talked to me, you can see I'm not
No,
intimidated.
yeah, obviously. No, you're a nice guy. I'm just saying, if I was a dude and you gave me, we accidentally bumped into each other at a show or something, I'd say sorry.
I'd be like, "Oh," I would probably have apologized first because I was raised I'm very polite, which that takes people by surprise. But yeah, years of depression and anxiety, and the anxiety really started rearing its head fairly right around 1920. And it was around 1920. I started having I would start around that time. I was a dumbass and dropped out of college halfway through my second semester as a freshman. I so wish I stuck with it, but that's a totally different other rant to go on
Dude,
there.
I went for like a semester. Don't even worry.
Yeah, I was on a scholarship, so that was not really,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So,
Oh,
but about a year later, I was just mostly I just went straight into working and trying to just do the work life, and I started with hyperventilate, and then I would feel like my body starting going numb, usually from my feet up. And I was at a friend's house one of the first times this happened, and I just dropped, like just hit the deck. Still
really?
awake. I just like my whole body went numb and I just dropped.
Well,
And they had to help calm me down, and was like, what the hell was that? And started having stuff like that regularly, and I would catch myself starting to feel numb to where I would go sit down or lay down somewhere before I would drop. And I was at the same friend's house at New Year's with a
mhm.
group of friends, and it's New Year's, so we were all up late, we all pass out, and apparently it started hyperventilating in my sleep in the morning. They found me and I was just like hyperventilating, and they didn't know what to do, so they took me to the hospital.
Well,
And I came to there and was like, "What's going on? What time is it? What's going?" Like just totally out of it because I was asleep. But no idea. So they decided to.
it just
Uh,
started happening. There was like no
yeah.
traumatic event that
No.
occurred. You weren't in an
No.
accident or something.
Nope. Not at all. that's so it's just like, all right, doctors are like, all right, so it's been happening for a while, so we'll send you to some specialists, get some tests, and did like EKGs, MRIs, all that fun stuff. And my dad was the one that took me to all these, so even he was like he was concerned and all, and so it's like, okay, we got the results and blah blah blah. So went in and well, your results are all coming up kind of normal, and so all we can think of really is that you're just having some spells. That's how the doctor even yeah. My dad and I are just like
Really?
spells, like what does that mean? It's like it'll probably go away. Something's probably just it might just be stress. Who knows? We they didn't even think
That's
that I could
ridiculous.
yeah. I've had like dealt with kind of like the usual depression, young adult pressure, depression type stuff. So I was just like,
Mhm.
what is this? Didn't really realize until like uh probably like about a decade ago. I was probably about 28 when I realized that was probably anxiety attacks and panic attacks I was suffering. And
That's so weird.
because reading up on it and having friends and roommates that went to therapy for that stuff and them explaining some of the feelings they had and realizing, holy shit, I was having a really bad anxiety attacks back then.
Mhm.
I thankfully don't have them like that anymore. And my when I do start feeling anxious, I just start try to kind of go zen and be all like, breathe, stay calm, talk
Mhm.
myself down. So don't really have anything to the point where I'm going now and I feel like I'm gonna hit the floor or I managed to catch myself before I hyperventilate. So I don't and I've been on medication for anxiety before and depression and currently not on it because it's just our wonderful healthcare system. You know how fun that can be.
Did they
So
help you?
uh in hindsight, yes, but also you'd have to get the dose adjusted so much, and then there are definitely times, especially with the antidepressants, that you worry about becoming too dependent on them.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, I'm also one of the ones that I don't say if don't take medication because they're just trying to pump stuff into you and blah blah blah. Because when people do the like, oh, there's altering chemicals, like, yeah, no shit, because my brain's not making the right chemicals in the first place. So yeah, I wanted to alter it to make it work, but I currently don't. I go to therapy and man, those are how I deal with my depression, anxiety, and all that fun stuff. And it's a great combo. I have my therapist that I can talk the serious part with it, band to deal with the more I have to scream my frustration about this. I'm gonna go scream in the microphone for a couple hours, or we have a show. I'm gonna go scream. But then before and after a show, I have to deal with don't feel overwhelmed with dealing with people because of
Mhm.
anxiety. Don't. But usually after a show, I'm like, all right, I'm good. Well, we don't have another show for another couple of weeks. Perfect, because it's going to take a couple of weeks for me to recharge from dealing with.
Yeah. Oh, I feel that. I feel that. I used to have super fucking social anxiety. Well, I still do. Whenever I would go out to shows, and then when I'd go by myself, and then it's like, oh, there's creepy dudes sometimes, and
Oh,
all
I'm
these
sure.
people in my space, and I'm like, oh god, and it's really hard for me to like
Mhm.
come out of my shell, and
Oh yeah.
I'm
Oh,
not
no.
one to go up and talk to somebody. You know what I mean? It's like you
Oh yeah.
can
Oh, me
talk to
neither.
me if you
I
want, I guess.
totally just like deer in headlights if at shows. I'm one of the guy, not with my arm. I'm not the guy standing there with my arms crossed, but yeah, I can be that guy against the wall because I'm just like,
Everybody at a metal show
oh
ever.
god. It was the worst I ever saw that. It was L.A. Oh my god.
That's my hood, yo. Yes, and that's what it is. Either that or I mean,
Lost.
people got their little groups, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
But
yeah.
there's especially at the main shows though, that's like everybody except the
Uh,
young kids that are like 19 in the front.
yeah,
And I'm like, yeah, I don't
everyone's
want to get
the
punched in the face
there's
anymore.
because everyone comes through LA, so they have the impress me. That's what I called it. The you got to impress me to have me do anything.
Yeah. You could
But
definitely
oh, playing LA
you could say
shows.
that.
fucking god, I did not miss that at all. Here we have fun. There's
Mhm.
definitely a lot more fun here. Being in three different metal scenes and different parts of the country, definitely getting to see a different vibe in different ones. LA is spoiled and they all think we're gonna make it.
I was just talking to my friend from LA about that in the first episode.
Yep, I remember that. Everyone thinks they're gonna make it, and maybe
Mhm.
one or two will make it. And from the group of bands that I mostly play with, my old band was I don't know. When were you in LA?
I mean, I've lived there up until last year. I lived there all my life. What about you?
Okay, I was there from the end of 2004 until 2012.
Oh, okay.
I actually was in a band called Ketaset.
Don't think I ever heard of it.
So interestingly enough, my brother, who was our bass player, was In This Moment's original bass player before they got signed.
Um, I'm
Back,
trying
back,
to
when-
remember if
back
I
when
know
In
who
This
that
Moment
is.
was back when In This Moment was metalcore. Before they went all kind of the poppy industrial. This was way back in the day with we
Mm,
we did a one of the Human Abstract opened for us once. We played with Scale the Summit, Crematorium quite a few times.
that's cool.
Yeah, good friends with Dan Dismal from those guys. The good buddy of ours.
Oh yeah, I love Dan.
Oh, Dan! Fucking my first show in Los Angeles when I moved there was a church. It was one of the early Church of the Eighth Day shows.
Nice. He's
Yeah.
good people, dude.
Oh yeah, I love Dan. He's fucking awesome. Great guy. Still, and I still talk to him every once in a while too. Great guy. They're like all the Intronaut guys. Friends with it. My brothers recorded, pretty worked on every one of their albums since Prehistoricisms. Good friends with those guys. Great guys. But yeah. So our scene, yeah, like three bands really made it big when I was there. In This Moment was the one that made it, and we kind of all kind of knew. Keta said we were too fucking weird. And I say that with all the love. I love the music we did, but we were just fucking weirdos. And we were weird. The band was weird back in Tennessee before I joined because we were. It was originally a Tennessee band. We were just techie, mathy,
Like Tag Death.
not tech death. We played with a lot of death metal bands, but we were more like tech thrash. You
Okay.
know, oh, my brother Josh and our drummer Mark, wonderful musicians. Our guitarist Eric was fucking killer too. We had I was spoiled with that band. They were so good with gear. But oh my god, odd time signatures, and I wasn't great at sight reading or the really complicated time signatures in my marching band concert band days. My brother is great with that shit. So when we were talking, it's like, oh, this part is 7/8 and it goes into 13/12. What? And oh, and
Same.
he would start counting it out numerically. It goes 1 2 1, and I just play the riff. I'll figure out the groove if you play it, but if you count it to me, I'm not gonna figure it out because math is not my forte.
Same.
So it's like I was in a technical odd time signature metal band, yet I suck at math.
I don't
So
know.
what?
Maybe you just had the right like vocal
Oh,
patterns and rhythms to be able to
basically,
flow with
yeah.
it.
Oh, and I give all my brother credit in the world to help me with learning how to oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Compose, basically
Hmm.
compose lyrics to the music. Like I can write all day, doesn't mean it's
Right.
necessarily going to fit. I don't, and so basically composition and form was like, okay, this is what you're trying to say, but it needs to be shorter. Try this instead, and all that. He helped teach that stuff to me, and that works wonders when I came joined Bloodborne, which is way simpler.
Mhm.
Which initially when I joined, I was like, all right, I can do this. And then when it came to starting writing, I was like, shit. I'm so used to trying to deal with weird time signatures. This is almost all 4/4 or 3/4 or 2/4. It doesn't get too. All right, we're gonna have to try to remember how to write simpler in a way. My main focus is also to not over sing because that happens a lot, even with bands signed. That's a big problem I find with bands around here with their vocalists is they feel like they have to scream over everything.
No, there's definitely supposed to be a pause in there where you let the
They're
leads kind of do their
yes,
thing and have the beautiful solos or the melancholy intros or whatever.
exactly. Or just this headbang section, just let them headbang for a bit. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I do that, and that's a lot of that credit goes for my brother teaching me how to compose and give the song air and breath as a for the music as well. It's just not all about me screaming my head off the whole time. If I wanted to do that, I would be in like a noise rock band, noise core band, or I would just sit with the table with all the pedals while screaming into a microphone at the same. Which some of that stuff's cool, but no, I can only do so much of that. But yeah, all the different scenes, and because I started, as I said, Kettlestead started in Tennessee before I joined. I didn't join until way later, when after they had already been in Los Angeles for a while. And but I tried out for bands there, and I was actually for like a good in and would jam and do guest vocals with friends bands there all the time. And there was a couple bands in Tennessee that got signed. The Tony Danza Tap Dance Extravaganza.
Oh God.
Oh yeah, the name, I know the name is ridiculous, but
Says everything.
those guys were killer. They were
Shut up.
so good.
I don't
They're
believe
not.
you.
I know that they by the end of their career they just went by Danza anyway, mostly. But I heard them before they chose that name. I had jammed with them for audition for their vocalist spot for a while, and it's was very much influenced by like the early metalcore, like when it was more chaotic and crazy.
Hmm.
Like it wasn't screaming verse, singing chorus. It was all just like basically like Coalesce and We Like Botch and early Dillinger Escape Plan, just that kind of chaotic crazy. So it was just like, this is awesome. Those guys, I love those guys. I still talk to a couple of them all the time, but yeah, they got came out of there. I had friends in a band called Destroy, who actually did uh pagan metal. It was cool. It was different because it was just kind of like your name,
Really?
destroy. But yeah, they were all about. They wore the big gauntlets, and I want to say one of their promo photos they're in like loincloths and everything. But yeah, they were all in like black market activities from the vocalists from the Red Chords old label. So they were.
Okay.
So yeah, they were from that scene, like that chaotic, crazy proto. All the bands that everyone started calling deathcore later, they were kind of like the proto
The
before.
proto deathcore.
Yeah, when it
It's
was
like a
good.
Sam
When it was
Dunn calendar here.
yeah, when it was good, like Animosity and stuff like that. So that was the first scene I started auditioning for in Tennessee was bands like that. So I got into all that, and then after I got married, my my ex-wife, she has family. She had family in California. My brother was living out in California, so we kind of like want to make the jump.
Hmm.
Sure. So we did, and that's how I ended up in the Southern California music scene. And now I'm in the Maine, New England metal scene. We've mostly just Maine, but we've tried to get a little bit more regional. We've played in Massachusetts, we've played in New Hampshire. We were hoping to play a lot this year because the album came out last year. We released it digitally in March, but the physical copies came out in October. We actually played our record release show with two bands from Ohio,
Oh, what bands?
Mutilatred and Inoculation.
I think I might have heard of the second one. I still haven't been to too many shows around here because of the whole stupid COVID thing.
Yeah, Inoculation is uh, really cool. Uh, Ironically, when we got offered that gig by the promoter for it, he mentioned it to me. He's like, "I got this gig coming up. I think you guys would do really well." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. Sounds pretty. Those names sound pretty cool."
Hmm.
2 days later, one of the guys in Inoculation messaged us on Facebook asking if we wanted to play the same show. So I was like,
Hmm.
yeah, okay, cool. Inoculation is they're both death metal. Inoculation is more sci-fi-ish.
Mhm.
lyrical content. Butylatred is more on the Morbid Angel spectrum of like early Morbid, like just
Oh, nice.
old school.
Love
So
Morbid.
it was, yeah, it was a good fit for us being older heads that we are. So it was a good show, and that was a good. It was fun being the headliner. It was like our first headline show. It was like, this is cool. We've done opening,
So
we've done
bad.
second, we've done third. So being headliner, and it was just kind of like, yeah, cool. And a couple months later, we kind of went on a hiatus for we hiatus for playing live because some of us were dealing with some personal shit. And then a month later, COVID hit, so it was just kind of like shit. So hopefully we'll be able to play. I don't see until at least May next year at the earliest at this rate.
Right.
But hopefully we have a couple.
Hopefully.
Yeah, or you have two songs that we've been playing out that aren't on the album, and we've got about two that are almost done that we're trying to finish musically. Once the music's finished, it's easier for me to write. I have a hard time writing if the music's not done. Some people is like, "Do you ever write?" And they have something written, and then, "Oh, this will fit for this." No, everything I write is after the music's been done. As I said, I can write all day long. Doesn't mean it's gonna fucking work. So I wait.
Right.
So
Yeah,
and
it's easier to like set the tone and the rhythm to
yeah, and
when
I
you
can
already
pick
have
it
the
up.
music there as opposed to like try
Yep.
to
So
make music around lyrics.
oh yeah, and everything starts out the old school obituary way. No lyrics. I'm just making noise. It's my guitarist puts it. Just do the oohs, ahs, and rahs, man.
Oozars and rars.
Rars.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
And it's true. I will just sit there and I'll make the noise for so many how many, and I'll do it, and it's like, all right, and then I'll think sometimes, okay, how many consonants or all that, and be like, okay, how many? Okay, yeah, that works. But it gives me an idea for patterns and flow when I do it that way. It does absolutely look ridiculous at the same time, and I know it looks ridiculous, but at the same time, it works. It breaks it down to where I can just like come up with a pattern, making the noise, and then being like, all right, you know where you're gonna write, you know the where your vocal patterns are going to be, you know where it repeats. Because some of our songs, we definitely have a very verse, chorus, bridge structure. We don't go too crazy, which is fine. But some of them also don't do that. Like there'll be no actual chorus. They'll just be all verses and maybe like a line here or there. Or then there's some that are, yeah, they have choruses, but the chorus is a different chorus both times. It's just how it worked out. So writing, as I said, the real life horror, as I said, like needle tease about my fear of needles and drug addiction. Because I've had friends and people I know deal with drug addiction, and so needle teeth combine those two horrors of phobia and drug addiction. Consuming is about, as I said, can be about whatever can consume you and you being afraid of it. Uh, this one, our album opener, actually, the title was a suggestion from my guitarist. He was like, "I got an idea for that song for a
Hmm.
title." I was like, "Oh, what's that?" "Active Shooter" was the title.
Hmm. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I was like, totally can run with that one because my mom survived a school shooting way back in the day.
No way.
Yep.
Tell me all about it.
I was in eighth grade. And my brother was a junior. So I was at the junior high. He was at that high school. My mom taught at the other high school in our county in Tennessee.
Hmm.
And I was in class, and all of a sudden, someone came to the door from the office, talked to my teacher for a second, and then they go, "Nathan, they need to see you in the office." And I was just like, okay. And so I went out, and everyone in the class was just like, they start talking because I'm known as the quiet good kid. I don't get in trouble. I don't cause any problems. So
Hmm.
that got them all talking because they're just like,
Hmm.
they asked for Nathan into the office. That never happens. So I go into the office, and all I was told was, "We just want to tell you there's been an incident at Richland High School, but we have confirmed that your mom is okay." That's all they told me. So I was like, okay. And no, so I was like, all right, you can go back to class now. It's just don't say anything. Just tell them it was a family thing. I was like, all right. So that's what I did. They're trying
Mhm.
to be really good about controlling it.
Mhm.
Brother was not so lucky. He's in English class, and this is from what he told me. I'm thinking about this live. Someone came running into the room going, "There's been a shooting at Richland," and then ran out. And
Oh shit.
everyone in the class is always like, and obviously my brother's just like, "Oh shit."
Mhm.
And then someone versus like the person was like, "It's been confirmed. Uh, student, one teacher and one student dead, and another student teacher wounded," and then
Oh
left
shit.
again. So he's just
Wow.
sitting there, just like, apparently from what he told me, just like trying to maintain, but also just being very visibly, just very, just like,
Shaken.
yeah, because yeah, mom's a teacher there.
Yeah.
And her apparently his teacher was just like, "Oh my goodness, oh my god," and just is just like, just like taking it too, and then looks and sees him kind of quietly freaking out, and then she just realized, "Oh god, your mom teaches there, doesn't she?" And he's
Mhm.
like, "Yes."
Fuck.
Thankfully, mom got a hold of him too, because they apparently the news broke at the high school before the junior high, and they were trying to do damage control by the time they told me. But yes,
Do they know why there was a shooting?
the kid was definitely disturbed. He was a
Mhm.
troubled kid. My mom had him in class one year, and he was definitely, unfortunately, some of the cliches that you hear about the lone gunmen and shooters in those cases, he
Mhm.
was definitely one of those. He was not. He was a troubled kid, but it didn't make a lot of news because the school system didn't want to make a big deal of it because they felt like if they got too much media attention, yeah, they would focus on all the bad, but no, a lot, yeah. Two people, I think, two people died. One teacher did die for sure. Maybe a student, I can't remember. As I said, that was in eighth grade, so that was
Damn, that's scary,
that was-
dude. I'm glad your mom's okay.
yeah. Mom rounded the corner trying to run for help because they could hear everything going crazy, and she rounded the corner right after other teachers had pinned him down and pulled the shotgun away.
Jeez.
Yeah, so we got very lucky. So when Columbine happened when I was the end of my junior year and all that. And yeah, by that time I'm long hair, all black clothing, combat.
Oh shit.
Yeah, exactly. That was because when that happened, I was in school. We were in class when that happened. I think I was in history class. And they put on the news and we were just watching it. And I'm just sitting there and I'm just like, shit. I know how the next year is gonna go. Oh
Right.
yeah, a lot of awful, awful jokes about, "Oh, don't come up and shoot up the school, man." And then sometimes going, "You do remember Richland? My mom taught there," and that shut up a couple kids. But no, I did hear that a little bit. So, uh,
That's so annoying.
but active shooter was, uh, yeah, title started with title, and it was very easy to write. Unfortunately, because of this wonderful country that we live in, where shootings are rampant all the time,
Mhm.
especially at the time I wrote the song.
Man, that's fucking crazy.
It was I want to say it was suggested before. Oh Jesus, the big one down in Florida a couple years ago. The
At
one
wasn't it in elementary school?
after the elementary school, that was up here a couple years ago. The one in Florida at the high school in Florida, where the kids have been very active about.
Oh yeah, yeah. Being all weren't they on Time magazine and all that shit because
Yeah,
they were so
yeah,
anti.
which I understand because yeah, having a mom survive school shooting,
Yeah.
I totally get it. I really do. But yeah, I wrote that before that happened, and when that happened, it's just like, oh god.
Like,
Well,
God
this is
damn it.
why this song's easy to write.
Yeah.
When we funny story about that song. Well, funny, ironically, kind of like, oh shit. It was our first time playing New Hampshire. We were actually opening for Cannabis Corpse. the weed themed death metal band from the guys from
Yeah.
Invincible Waste. So we're gonna play that. That's gonna be in our set list. And that day that was last that was last summer. Yeah, last summer. It was last August. That was that day that we had two mass shootings in this country in the same day in August last summer. So we're gonna I was just like, before we're playing, that's on the news, and I'm just like, we're still playing this, right? And they're like, it's one of our best songs. I was like, well, all right, cool. So, and while we're waiting, the other one happens while we're waiting, and we're just like, Jesus
Oh
Christ.
God.
So before we play it, I just went, so this next song is kind of really relevant, especially today. This is Active Shooter. And as soon as I said the name, I hear people in the audience go, ooh.
Damn.
And I just went, yeah, well, and shrugged, and we went into the song.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
you
funny.
write what you see, and as I said, real life horror, that's a fucking horrible.
It was just bad timing
It
on
was
your
it was
part.
it was kind of just like an ironically like, well, wouldn't have to write about it if it didn't happen so much.
Yeah, I wonder why that's such an American problem. I don't think there's been any other countries that has like that much of a fucking issue with public shootings.
No, the biggest shooting I can think of in my lifetime was in Norway a couple years ago with the right wing guy that went nuts and shot up the camp out on that lake out in Norway. I
That
want to
was
say
recently?
the last decade. It's been I want
Mm.
to say that happened right after I moved to Maine. So that would have been about 2012, 2013. So yeah, it's just like since for me since about 8th grade, mass shootings have been kind of normal.
I know. They're totally fucking normal. But like why though? Why specifically here in America? I know we have a
I
shitty
think
mental health care system. Maybe that's why.
that probably helps, and also the stigmas.
Yeah,
Uh,
we were gonna talk about that.
because a lot of the shootings are guys, and there's a lot of the stigma about men don't talk about their feelings, shove it down. No, and don't you can't cry, you it's unmanly and all that cliche. And yeah, growing up with a lot of we're surrounded by a lot of self-proclaimed rednecks and jocks and preppy kids, and being from a very intellectual family where it was we were encouraged to we were encouraged to it was okay to show emotion. Our parents were not like stuff it down. I think with my dad it was because my grandfather was a drill sergeant. So dad
Mhm.
was more it's okay. You don't have to be tough. It's okay to not be tough because he had to deal with that kind of mentality with the
Well, that's really awesome that he decided to like break that
oh, dad was great with
cycle.
like my brother and I both had mohawks when we were younger, and dad gave it he shaved them for us. He was like, it's hair.
Really?
Yeah. He was like, it's hair, it'll grow back.
So he was like a pretty cool guy despite being a minister?
Yeah, as I said, dad was very open-minded about all that stuff. He did great. Took my brother to his first Metallica concert and stuff like that. And
That's awesome.
very no, he understood that it was music and an image, and he knew the whole overblown. It's all satanic. It's not true. Granted, when I was younger, some of the more obviously looking satanic, like I didn't listen to like Deicide when I was younger. Didn't I don't I try when I moved through to Maine, I did stop and visit both my folks in Tennessee, and when I was at Dad's house, I wasn't wearing my I Hate God t-shirts, at the house, even though
Right,
I
right.
know he would have totally gotten it, but
Mhm.
just to be respectful, as I say, I don't piss on anyone's religion if they don't. I don't care what someone's religion is, as long as they don't shove it down my throat.
Yeah.
I had plenty of people trying to save me, and I was just like, I go to church. You do know that, right?
So you never even went through that with your dad at all. He
Oh,
never tried to shove that because I
no,
find it
it was that was dad's job. So we went to when we were younger, we went to dad's job on Sunday because that's where we were. But no, dad, early age, told being the history nut that he is, basically just explained a lot of the history of Christianity to us at a young age. So I knew how the New Testament was formed. Oh, there's this is why the Gnostic Gospels were left out, or this was based on this, and blah blah blah. Don't take that so seriously. That he was really good about that, and very much ironically, because apparently a lot of Christians forget this. He was like, God gave you a brain to ask questions and not follow blindly. And that's something my dad taught me. So
Not according to my Catholic parents.
my step family was raised Catholic, and they are once my stepmom married my dad, they all converted to being Protestant, and they are very much, especially the oldest of my stepbrothers, who's my age, old friend of mine. We were friends before my dad and stepmom got married, but very much very anti-Catholic, very anti that blind faith, hardcore.
Oh, I hate that fucking shit. It makes me sick. Like I love my family, especially my mother, but she's all about that fucking blind faith, dude. No, no thinking for yourself fucking at all. Just leave it up to God. And she means well, but that shit drives me fucking crazy.
No,
I gotta
see,
bite my tongue so many times, dude.
no, I get that. No, dad is very like I have a lot of friends that are atheists or very anti-religion, and they're like, "Your dad sounds really cool," because a lot
Hmm.
of them have those horror stories.
Yeah.
I know I lucked, and then I'm like very lucky with dad being that way. And no, dad was like, no, dad is like very much into humor and horror and stuff. Like my introduction to horror was his Tales from the Crypt comics from back in the day. Um,
Nice.
and the
I used
old
to love that show.
and not even the show, like the comic books, the
Yeah.
old comics from the 50s and stuff.
Oh,
That
that's fucking cool.
that was my introduction to horror. So I had a very high feeling for horror when I got into it. And all that stuff, like Ray Harryhausen movies, great mythology, all that stuff. But that was like, and very big avid Monty Python fan.
Oh, those movies are hilarious. It took me a while to get into them. At first, I wasn't a fan of like the dry British humor, but then I watched it again later and I was like, this is so goofy and it's hilarious.
That's what I grew up with, so that's where that my dry sarcasm and humor comes from. A lot of
Hmm.
that, but
Hmm.
Life of Brian and stuff like that. That's a very obvious poking fun at Christianity. That's
Hmm.
one of my dad's favorite movies. He loves it. Dad's always said people that, especially Christians, that are super loud about I'm Christian, I'm look how good I am, I'm Christian, I believe this, I believe that, are very loud about it, actually are very insecure about it. They're loud about it like that because they want to prove more so to themselves that they are that.
They're probably full of shit too.
Yes. My dad called he's like, how, especially nowadays, he's like, how they call a lot of the very they call them Islamists with the IST instead of just Muslim and all, like the Islamists, like ISIS and all that. And it's like I called Christians that are like that Christianists because claim they are, but they tend to skewer a lot of the message. A lot of those churches go by all this older stuff that's not in the New Testament because
Right, right.
yeah, and yeah, I was like, and also if you have to have a sense of humor about your religion,
Hmm.
because if you can't even poke fun at your own religion, you really don't believe it. Like Dogma came out, the Kevin Smith's movie Dogma came out when I was a senior, and I went with my stepbrother. He was laughing more at the jokes than I was because he was raised Catholic, so he got it more. So it took me a while to catch up on some of the jokes, but I got a good chunk of them because I knew a little bit of it. Of Catholicism, being raised Methodist. So when that came out on home video, and so dad was like, he's like, I like a good religious comedy. He's like, Dad, it's pretty raunchy with the language. He's like, I can handle it. I was like, okay, just saying. So as soon as he saw George Carlin portraying a cardinal pope, my dad lost it. He was laughing his ass off. He was like, and by the end of it, he's like, no, there's a lot of good points in this movie. And I know a lot of people that were probably protesting this, that this is anti Christian. probably are totally missing the point. So yeah, religion to me, there are goods and bad in all of it. That's why I just am agnostic because it leaves
Hmm.
that whole open maybe,
Right,
but it's not as hardline as atheist or blind faith. And
right, right. It's like you believe there could be some level of spiritual
yes,
plane or something, but you're not necessarily subscribed to any one religion.
exactly. There I have studied a lot of world religions a little bit and to see what some of it's about because you always I'm curious about that stuff you want to know and also trying to find ways that might because there's a lot of people in this country too when you tell them you're depressed or dealing with all this stuff that well have you gone to church, have you read the Bible, have
Oh
you
god.
this exactly.
Yeah, sorry, Jesus can't fix my brain, bitch.
Yeah, it's just like give it all to God, but at the same time, he's like, well, what's wrong with these other religions? Maybe they might have some ideas too. So just try to look it out, try different things and dealing with all this nonsense and all the stigma coming up with macho being surrounded by what was considered macho and manly and not being any of those stereotypes for the deep south because that was deep south where I lived. First town in Tennessee I lived in was one stoplight in the whole town.
Jeez.
And then I spent my junior high and high school years in the town that gave the world the Ku Klux Klan.
Exciting.
Yeah. So
Nice locations you chose there, Nathan.
I didn't
Well,
have any.
that must have really sucked then if you were raised to be able to express yourself and express your emotions, and then you're surrounded by all these little shitheads in elementary, middle school, high school that are telling you that that's wrong. Like, I'm sure that must have made you feel very ostracized and alone.
By most of the men the boys, yeah. A lot of my good friends growing up were, especially once I hit junior high and high school, were girls. They were a little,
Okay.
they were a little less. They were more appreciative of the fact that I wasn't so typical guy.
Yeah.
But also, I didn't want to hang out with a lot of the guys because they were that, and I didn't like it. It wasn't me. And with the times I tried to fake it to get friends, it didn't feel right. And they would know, so they'd find some way to kind of play jokes or pranks or whatever on me. Like, and it sucks. One of my best friends from junior high, uh, who was he when I moved to basically after my parents divorced and we lived in my mom and I lived in one area for a bit and then we transfer she got a new house and so I had to transfer between schools in the middle of the school year in 6th grade, which
Hmm.
obviously at those time frames is really tough,
Hmm.
especially when you're a new kid in the middle of a school year. It's going to be noticed. No, it wasn't even middle of school year. It was like the end of school. It was like the last 2 months of school I got transferred.
Well, at least it was almost towards the end.
Yeah, but being that new, that late in the year, oh yeah, and being a weird kid showing up to school with dinosaurs on my backpack into Pulaski,
Mhm.
Tennessee, this very rednecky place. Yeah, I definitely I showed up basically with a target on my back. But my good friend, may he rest in peace, he passed away from cancer a couple years ago. My friend John Van Doren came up and he was like, "You look interesting. I want to be your friend." John didn't have anyone that he got along with everyone. He was a good guy. He was born with his back was messed up when he was born, so he was on crutches. So he had a lot of adversity in front of him, but he was one that if he thought you looked like someone to interesting, he definitely wanted to be your friend, and he was my first friend in that town and my closest friend in that town all the way up through graduation. Uh, so it was kind of nice because he was no one picked on him, even though he was disabled. But
Mhm.
every but basically because of him being on crutches his whole life, his upper body was built like a brick shit house. So probably no one wanted to fight him. Even
Mhm.
he was just that good of a guy. He was just that friendly. But that he welcomed me and made me feel like I had that friend.
That's
And so
awesome. He sounds like a really great person.
he was. I finally got into therapy last year.
Mhm.
I've wanted to go for years, but just always as we've kind of talked before, just trying to figure out the financial end and just
Yeah. It's expensive.
having a coworker tell me that there was the program at work
Mhm.
where they can at least get you a couple sessions and maybe figure out from there
Right.
was great. And
So you had an opportunity to go to therapy through work.
yep,
Okay.
they would cover the first 5 sessions.
Mhm. That's fucking awesome, dude. That's
Yeah.
like
And,
150 each.
yeah, and what worked out even better was the therapist I see, my therapist,
Mhm.
he was suggested by an ex roommate's therapist that she went to because I was wanting to go, and I was like, "Do you think your therapist has any suggestions for me?" And she suggested my therapist, who thankfully was covered by the work program, so it worked out. Kind of nice little synchronicity there, where it was like, "Oh, you can do this. Here's someone that your therapist, friend's therapist, thinks would be perfect for you, and oh look, covered. You can go see him for at least 5 sessions free, basically."
That's
And I
awesome.
did. And once that went up, I was like, I really don't want to stop going because last year I had a lot of the abandonment issues came up. I won't go into details why, but it came up and there was a lot of fear and it was ramping up my anxiety a lot. It was ramping up my depression a lot. I just and talking to someone finally and being able to talk to someone because it just always been like this is too expensive because I've never thought going seeing a therapist as a guy was unmanly. I'm like, I had, I think my dad said he's gone before, and I know my mom has when after the divorce a little bit,
Mhm.
but I never thought it wasn't. I didn't. I think it was intimidating. Also, the idea because, as I say, being so anxious and shy and introverted, just talking to a stranger felt very intimidating. So that was one of the other factors for a long time putting it off was just wrestling with the how am I gonna break the ice? How is this gonna how what's I don't know what this is gonna be like. This is gonna be so weird. I don't know what
Mhm.
to do.
Mhm.
But once I was like, no, I need to do this. And I did. And so I've been with him now. June of last year is when I started seeing him. So I've been with him for about a year and a half now. I went start yeah, did the first 5 and then after that we worked out basically a payment options and I went from seeing him every week to where I saw him every other week. And about let's say August, maybe July, end of July this year, we cut back to where I only see him like once a month right now because unlike a lot of people during this whole pandemic shutdown who are not used to handling a lot of these kind of situations and feelings, my therapist has actually been very happy with how I've been doing. And when we were talking about it initially, I was like, I chalk it up to my love of dark history, knowing that we've been through a pandemic that's ravaged the world like this before. Couple times, we always bounce back. So once we get through, we'll be okay. My dark sense of humor and my self-deprecating humor, and also besides from I've worked the whole time. My job did not being in the medical manufacturing field basically. We didn't stop working. I've worked this whole time. I didn't lose my job. There
Yeah,
was a
me
couple
too.
of there was a less no overtime throughout the summer, so that definitely hit the wall during the summer. But we're back on overtime, so yay! Oh, so happy to see that back on a paycheck after
Mhm.
about 7 months of no overtime. Was just like oh, and then seeing it again, I was like oh, thank God, that helps.
Money helps.
Yeah. But no, I he chalked it up for that, and he was worried about, especially, big incident happened last November around this time. Well, actually, the day that post I made about basically saying I'm been doing pretty good. I'm not in a bad headspace. My therapist has been good. Guys, fuck the stigma. If you want to go to therapy, go to therapy. That whole post, basically the 1 year anniversary of this event. It was nothing suicidal or anything like that. I didn't just had to do, as I said, deal with my depression and abandonment issues, basically, and
Hmm.
anxiety. And I was just like, no, I'm doing really good. And I had therapy earlier, the week before, and he asked me, how do you feel about things coming up? And I was like, I'm feeling okay. I've thought about it, and it still sucks, but not gonna let it get it down. I'm not gonna dwell on it. I'm not gonna, and that's been how I've been dealing with my depression a lot this year. Is just like,
Hmm.
yeah, I start getting depressed here and there, and then like a lot of this year, I know a lot of people have, and dealing with it for the first time really hard ever in their lives. So it's a big issue, and he has told me that he's had to have a couple clients go in because they weren't doing well, and he's been so happy with how I've been doing this year. And so, but yeah, this year around these anniversary of these big events, instead of being all like maybe being triggered by an emotion, or oh, this happened on this day, being overwhelmed by it, I basically accepted it. It was not easy to get there, and it was just more just like, do I really want to get depressed about this weekend?
Right.
It's right after my daughter's birthday. Do I really want to dwell on this? And it was like, no, I don't. I don't feel like I did last year this time. And that means more, that I
Hmm.
don't feel like that. So it was just
Yeah, exactly.
like cool. All right. So I just treated it like it was any other day. Uh,
That's
you know,
good.
and also another this past Thanksgiving, I have no family up here at all.
Hmm.
My family up here is my bandmates. Last year, because of that event, we actually had like a band Thanksgiving. We got together at my bassist's house, and he was with his girlfriend, so they cooked up, and I picked up my drummer on the way there, and then our
That
guitarist,
sounds
his
nice.
wife, and my guitarist and his wife came a little bit later because they had family stuff too. But yeah, we all had a band Thanksgiving. And initially, before the world shut down, that was going to be this year too. We're going to think about trying to do that. Obviously,
Hmm.
couldn't do that. So he was where he's like, how are you going to feel about Thanksgiving this year? And I was like, I already kind of know I was going to do it alone. So I'm okay. And got scheduled to work overtime this weekend anyway. So it's basically going to be my Friday. It's going to be my Saturday, Sunday, even though I ended up working half of Friday too.
Hmm.
So it was like, so I cooked a meal for myself, and I found something to watch. It was just another day. It was a day off for me.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and I know it was definitely, I could see some of the posts, some people just being like, I don't know what to do without, I'm so used to family stuff. And it's just like not being around my family is close, but none of us live close together. My brother still lives out in Los Angeles. He's an independent recording engineer and works for NPR. Him and his wife and son live out there. My kids live in Arizona. My parents live on two opposite ends of the state of Tennessee. My dad lives in Nashville. My mom lives down in the boonies. And my step siblings are all three of them are in Tennessee too. And I have one stepbrother in Texas. And
So they're all over the fucking place.
yeah, and I'm
Why didn't
all
you guys do a Zoom Thanksgiving?
I don't know. I don't know. Didn't come up. Well, because mostly for a lot of years, yeah, we haven't lived together, lived near each other, so we've all kind of gotten used to it. So I guess maybe that's why. But I talk to my parents quite regularly. Talk to my kids pretty much every week, even though That's with schoolwork as being a junior. I don't. Some weekends my daughter can talk because she's catching up on schoolwork.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but no, it's like I've gotten used to it. I've been a little self-efficient, I guess, when it comes to the being alone like that for big holidays because I just have been for the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think introverts were definitely better equipped mentally
Oh,
to be able to handle this lockdown.
oh Lord,
Like
yeah.
everybody's losing their minds, and I'm like, this is just normal life for me. I'm always at home
I
alone, talking to no one. Like, you bitches are weak. Like, I can't see my friends for 2 weeks.
oh
Like,
yeah,
I mean,
that too.
I
Oh
know
my God, I did.
there's.
Part of me realized at one point I did start laughing. I was like, wow, aside not getting to do band practice every week like I was, my life hasn't really changed much.
Yeah, I know, and I kept working too, so it hasn't been too much of a difference for
So
me.
it was like, all right, that's basically how I just,
Yeah.
as I said, the dark humor and the self-deprecating humor. I was just like, wow, well, that goes to show how boring I am. That my life has not really taken that drastic a hit with how this past year is. That being said, I have definitely seen some friends struggle and just sending them kind words of encouragement because that sometimes that's all people need with it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
especially, as I said, being a guy and seeing guys struggle and them not admitting it,
Yeah.
just like, no,
That's so fucking toxic that
yes,
they're not able to express that because they're just fucking holding it inside and it's like fucking killing you from the inside. You know what I mean? That's why I wanted to like do this podcast. That's why I wanted to talk to you specifically because you're a guy and I always see you posting on Facebook about mental health awareness and how, we need to be open about talking about it. And you're just very open and honest. And I think that's
it's,
really important for everybody to be able to touch that part of themselves, you know what I mean? Especially men, and especially men in the metal scene where you have
oh,
to be brutal all the time, you know what I mean? It's
yeah,
like you don't
and I,
have to be brutal all the time. I don't know who needs to hear this, but you don't have to be brutal all the time. It's okay to fucking love on kittens and be sweet to your girlfriend.
million times percent agree. And as we were talking when we were scheduling this interview and all that, and the talk and all that, I am not your typical metal guy. I look
Mhm.
like the typical metal guy. I wear
Mhm.
band t-shirts pretty much 99% of the time. I'm in army pants and either in combat boots or chucks, and if I could grow long, wasn't bald, yeah, I'd probably have fucking ass length hair by now, and I have the beard and tattoos, and I look tough. But no, when I am not that. I'm not brutal and 100%. I'm not. And I'll use this because I know will know exactly what I mean. It's like I am not true all the time.
Oh, okay, yeah.
True with
You don't
true with
need to be true all the time, okay?
true with the V.
If you weren't part of the late 1980s slash early 1990s metal scene, black specifically from Norway,
Uh,
you're not true. You're never gonna be true. I don't care how black metal you think you are. Look, I'm really fucking black metal. I will
you're
admit I am not true.
you're you're not as cult as you think you are.
I'm not as cult. I may fuck with the corpse paint, but none of us are cult
Him and
really.
can.
Not
That's
really.
I'll. This is how untrue I am. I am not the biggest black metal fan.
That's okay. I am not a metalcore fan.
I just I came from the thrash death. This is why I say I'm not like a one of those like typical metalheads. Coming up, one of the advantages from growing up in bumfuck Tennessee, basically, is once I got into it, and I totally give all the credit to my older brother. Started me at like 12, 13. He started me young. He's just like, here, listen to this.
Oh, I
And
was gonna ask you how you got into metal. So it
yeah,
was your
yeah,
brother.
yes. I wish I
Mm.
still had them. They got lost in all the moves I've done over the
Mhm.
years. But he made two mixtapes for me, and they were all
Ooh,
Roadrunner records.
tapes.
Yes, cassette tapes. This is like 90, between 94, early 96 when he made
Mhm.
it. So they're all Roadrunner bands at the time. So, and he put them in the bands by alphabetical order. So I had like Biohazard, Death, Fear Factory, Machine Head, Obituary, Suffocation, Sepultura, Typo Negative.
Nice.
That was a lot of my introduction. That, and while he was getting into it, and before it went off the air, original Headbangers Ball.
Mm.
Mm, original. I still have on VHS tape somewhere some of the old Headbangers Ball videos, and
Dude, that shit was so fucking dope.
that's where I found
Kids
like,
these days don't know what they're missing out on. Once upon a time, MTV actually played music.
yes, this was what's when we got into it was like basically right before it went off there. So this is when Ricky Rackman had short hair. He didn't have the long hair, but this is
Okay.
where I found like Anthrax and stuff like that, and Slayer and all even more. Basically, all the big names you can think of for underground, and as we said, Roadrunner Records was basically our big label. I didn't find bands like Napalm Death until late junior high when they were in their weird, well, what most people consider their weird groove death metal phase, which I personally fucking love those albums because that's where I found them. I didn't find them with Scum and From
Mhm.
Enslavement and all that. I found them with Inside the Torn Apart and Words from the Exit Wound. Those albums are sorely underrated, but I found those weird oddball albums. Same time as getting into metal, this is also when alternative rock's really big, like even like early grunge stuff. I remember the MTV News Bulletin when they announced that Kurt Cobain had committed suicide. I
Damn.
remember that. That was 94. I was 12 when that happened, but
Dude, you're the
I
perfect
remember
age.
that. I remember that. That was a big fucking deal. I remember that. But yeah, we basically, for me growing up, anything that wasn't pop country, because that was the other big, obviously big thing. I like real country, like Johnny
Mm.
Cash, Hank Sr., Dolly, Willie, Waylon Jennings, Hank the Third, any
Mhm.
other of the newer, younger guys like Amigo the Devil,
Mhm.
those poor bastards. Anything gothic, alternative, dark, outlaw country, fucking love. Pop country, which is basically pop music and cowboy boots. And when you grow up in Tennessee, you learn the difference really fast of
I'm
like, I like
sure.
that. And so all that, so basically all the big 90s metal bands, like obviously, basically, my older brother found Metallica and Faith No More, the early 90s Black Album, Angel Dust era of Faith No More. And
Mhm.
it basically went downhill from there. But also big on the alternative stuff like Jane's Addiction. I'm a huge Primus fan. I love, what was I said, Boingo Boingo, gothic rock, industrial, all of it.
Yeah. I
Rock,
like a lot of that stuff too.
hardcore. Basically, if it was heavy and it pissed off the jocks and the rednecks, I was all for it. So that's my background with all that. On top of growing up with classical, being in concert, marching band, my folks grew up with mostly like 60s folk, like big Simon and Garfunkel fans. I am too. Beatles. I like the Beatles. Even like the 50s stuff, like Buddy Holly and like all those guys. That's
Mhm.
what my folks grew up with. That's what I grew up with. Also being a kid of the 80s, Weird Al was the shit. you know,
Fucking Weird Al, dude.
every
Kids
I
these
don't
days
know
will not know Weird Al, and that is a goddamn
everyone
shame.
loves Weird Al. If you say you don't like Weird Al, I don't trust you.
I definitely appreciate his sense of humor. We can say that
It's
much.
the older he gets, the more grown up it gets too, which I love.
Yeah.
And
I would never buy a record, mind you, but
I've seen him in concert, and damn, that's a good show. That is a good show.
I'm sure that would be interesting.
His band is probably one of the tightest bands I've ever fucking seen, and
Really?
it's been this. Well, they have to know all these catalogs of all these different styles, and they nail it live every time. The
Okay.
one time I saw Weird Al half the audience is little kids and their parents. The other half is every metalhead, goth, punk, alternative rock fan you can think of in the Nashville, Tennessee area. So, so
All right.
it was an interesting crowd, but we all fucking loved that stuff growing up. So yeah, that was the progression. So I love all that stuff, and when you're a little kid, you don't notice as much of the all the different styles as you hear growing up in the 80s, especially. There's so much stuff. Now, in
Mm-hmm.
hindsight, as I got older, I love a lot of 80s synth, dark wave, synth wave, new wave.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge Cure fan with the goth, as I said, the gothic rock, big Joy Division fan, Susie and the
Mm-hmm.
Band, all that stuff.
Yeah, I love that good goth shit. I've been listening to a lot of Killing Joke lately. Been getting
Oh,
more
you
into
too,
them.
really?
Yeah.
I have too this year. I've been a big fan for years, and this year I went on a big kick and actually found their documentary they did a couple years ago, which is probably one of the most intense band documentaries I've ever
Oh, I
fucking.
gotta check that out. Where is it?
I found it. It was free on streaming. Well, if you have Prime, it's included on Prime. But I
Mm-hmm.
want to say it was on one of the other streaming channels too. But it's
Maybe
called.
Hulu.
I don't think it was Hulu. It was one of the more weirder ones like Tubi or something like that,
Oh,
or
okay.
even so. But yeah, look up Killing Joke: The Death and Resurrection Show is what it's called.
I'm all
It's
about it.
it was I was like I was quite impressed. It was really well done.
I
But yeah,
vicariously would love to live through fucked up ass rock stars and aspire to interview many, many of them.
yeah, Jazz Coleman's a character, and that documentary even confirmed it even more so than I already knew. I was just like, whoa. So I shared it with one. I told one of my friends about it because he didn't know about it either, and I knew he was a big Killing Joke fan too. So he was like, "What? Okay, I got to check this out." He's like, "Dude, it's intense." I was very impressed. But yeah, so I had all that at one time,
Hmm.
all those different styles. So
You're just an amalgam of all things death metal, good country, gothic, and pop 80s pop synth.
basically, yeah,
Okay.
I tell
I can
people
dig it.
I am a music fan first, metalhead second.
Okay. I respect that. I respect that 100.
I have a I even like I'm very picky about it, but I like hip hop. I love R&B and
There's
being
good hip hop. There's definitely good hip hop, good rap.
so
I like Immortal Technique is fucking sick.
I
He's
like the
so
more like,
goddamn smart and such a good
I've,
storyteller.
I've always been a big Outcast fan myself. I've
Hmm.
always loved him. One that cracks it makes total sense with how much of a nerd I am, but I love MC Chris if you familiar with him at all.
I'm not, unfortunately. Is he like
Uh,
super OG gangsta?
basically nerdcore rap. Like he has
Nerdcore rap.
just look up MC. He has rap songs about Star Wars and comic books.
Oh, okay. So he's like a goofy guy.
A little bit, yeah, but he does it very well. Like did you ever watch Aqua Teen Hunger Force?
Yes.
He was the voice of MC Pants.
Oh, okay.
The guy that I Love Candy. Yeah, that's MC Chris.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's a great
So,
show.
oh yeah, I love that stuff. So, but yeah, I'm a amalgam of all these different styles, and a lot of my, as I said, a lot of my how I write is inspired by my non-metal influences, and I think that's good because
I think that's good too. It's like
if I
it
just
allows you to be more creative.
yeah, as I said, being fans of like Paul Simon and Nick Cave and Tom Waits and
Hmm.
stuff like that, and it's just like it gives you different idea for stories and also a different idea of where to find the beat or where to maybe not sing in a song or stuff like that, and
Hmm.
by doing that it brings in that different influence. And I'm also like a perfect example, as I said, yeah, being an amalgam, I will go to a metal show wearing a non-metal shirt.
Oh yeah, I've seen a couple people do that. I always found it to be an interesting statement. But they still like
That's
metal.
it's not even so much a statement. Usually, it's just what shirt I'm ending up wearing that day, or and also, or even for my own band shows, like I'll either wear a friend's band or an obscure, more my bandmates call me the encyclopedia because I know so many underground obscure bands. And I will try to promote them more than like the bigger name bands. I like
Mhm.
everyone sees those, so I'll
That's
be
pretty
wearing
cool.
like a smaller band that I've gotten into or something like that.
Mhm.
Or yeah, even like we did a show last year with buddies, an old buddy of my bandmates. His band, he wanted to bring his band. He lives in Chicago now, and he wanted to bring his band basically here for like a hometown show. So they borrowed our gear, and we provided the PA and all for the show, and we played with them too. So grant this, they're more. This band is more traditional metal, power metalish more. So we have that and a death metal band, and the band that opened was actually more like it was more not full on indie rock, but more like post rock. Like, and
Post rock.
I want to say they were like Godspeed You Black Emperor and stuff like that. We over the years with my writing with all this stuff, I've tackled stuff like that too. And like with Keta said, I had a song. I was so yeah, this is a lot of my real life horror, and there's definitely a lot of mental illness inspiredness from friends and people I've cared about, and even some of my experiences or just stuff that I never would see addressed in the metal community. Like with my old
Mhm.
band, I had a song. We had a song called that I ended up titling "Vacant," and the lyrics that inspired that was I had a job for a while working at a alternative school. One half of the school was for basically troubled youth. They had troubled home lives. They'd acted out, the typical. They weren't bad kids per se, but they definitely had issues and with impulse control when it came to their emotions and stuff like that. That was
Mhm.
one half of the school. The other half of the school was basically developmentally challenged kids. So, yes, including the autistic kids on the spectrum. I was assigned a student who was autistic, nonverbal communication, all that. Didn't really get the best training going into it, sorry to say. So basically, I was paid to an extent to try to basically gently try to keep him onto his school curriculum, which was very simple stuff. But if he didn't like that, he would act out. And never ever having actually dealt with someone at nonverbal communication autism scale. I have friends that Asperger's, the whole nine. I have friends with that. So I've someone is like, "Oh, are we too weird? I have diagnosed with Asperger's." I'm like, I get it. Okay, cool, no problem.
Mhm.
I can hang. I'm not weirded out by it, but it was definitely a very learning experience being that kid one on one aid because to an extent I basically was getting paid to get my ass beat by him every day because he did not like to stay on. And when he got worked up, he would start hitting me. And
Mhm.
so I actually, Vacant got inspired by learning more about autistic kids
Mhm.
and what it might be like from their point of view. And I ended up finding friends online that had autistic kids, and I asked them, "Hey, this is what's going to happen with my new song. Do you mind if I send you what I wrote? Because I know you have a son or a daughter on the spectrum." And they're like, "Yeah, we'd love to." And oh man. And I sent it to them, and their responses back because I was worried that I didn't want to come off as being exploitive or can
Mhm.
like or anything like that. And they wrote all. I think I sent it to like three different friends over the years. Even after Keta broke up and we weren't even playing anymore, I still wanted their opinion on that because it was a very personal experience learning and dealing with this to to see it happen and trying to understand it. tune away. And what I wrote and sent to them, and every single parent was like, "This is pretty much 100% accurate, and you're just doing this from a second person, like not even a first person's point of view. You're doing it from second person, from a second point of view, but you're basically this is what it feels like what we've noticed as parents, what their life is like,
Hmm.
what it might be like in their head. You're nailing it." And that meant a lot. And
That's awesome.
so with what I wrote, been writing with Bloodborne over the years, I wanted to keep up that standard. I'm very super critical on my I am my own worst critic when it comes to my writing all the fucking time.
No star to star.
Oh god, yes. Well, I have always been very harsh critique of myself. I have stuff written that I'm like, never going to use this. Why do I even still have this? If I hate something, there are also times if I hate something right off the bat, it's gone. I
Hmm.
throw it away. When I lived at a house with a wood burning stove, right in the wood stove, I was like, nope. So so sometimes it will take me a while to write lyrics to a song because I want it to be good.
Hmm.
So like there's actually one song of ours, "Execute the Traitor," which that's probably like one of the more metal sounding titles we have. that that that's about people that stab you in the back, which can be a horror story in all sorts of ways, especially if it's people that were friends, and that has happened before.
Oh, I'm sure.
And so that kind of expired that as more of a more straightforward. But for we started playing shows before I even finished writing the lyrics to that song. So even live, I was like, "Oh, one nice thing about being in death metal, man, they don't understand what I'm saying, so I am just faking this whole second part of this song." Because I used to not that used to not be a song I enjoyed. I love all our songs now, but
Hmm.
used to be because I was having such a hard time writing that one. It
Hmm.
took forever to write it, and once I figured out what I wanted and wrote it, oh yeah, now I like it. But writing's very cathartic for me, even when it's all about stuff that hasn't happened to me personally, like all this like holy shit, this like everyone like uh because I know the one thing I do know that's going to happen from this damn pandemic is everyone's going to write a goddamn song about it. I
Oh
just
yeah. Oh
I just
God, yeah. Whole albums.
I know it is
So
because
many albums.
there's a couple years ago, like almost every band coming out was having like an ocean themed album title, and I was just like, Jesus Christ, another. It's like oceans between us, or this an ocean of misery, or blah blah blah. And I was just like, Jesus Christ, guys, why did everyone decide oceans was going to be the thing this year? And I even remember earlier was actually one of the few full band practices we had. My guitarist was like, "Hey, maybe we could write a song called about the new abnormal." And as soon as he said that, I just went, "I can't." And he's like, "Why not?" Like, well, for one thing, on the new Lamb of God album, Randy says that in one of the songs, and he just went, "Really?" I'm like, "Yep." And he was like, "Shit." And that's when I was like, I don't think I could write a song about the pandemic. And a lot of people are saying, it's like, oh, as a writer, I'm sure the pandemic's giving you all sorts of ideas.
Hmm.
Nope, not related to the pandemic because I'm avoiding that as much as possible because I know everyone else is going to do it. What's another song in about the pandemic going to do for us as a band? Nothing.
Yeah.
It's not going to do anything. It's going to get lost with all the other like 30 million songs that's going to come out of this.
Yeah, everybody's
But
gonna be coming
the
out with.
band that fucking survives, a couple of bands have broken up.
Oh,
This,
I'm sure because they can't go fucking practice and shit.
yep. So a lot of
But
bands, this
there's
has happened, but it's just like I know it's going to happen, and I don't want to be part of the. I guess that's where some of my punk rock back influences come from. Is like I don't want to conform to that because I know everyone's going to do a pandemic song. I don't want to do one.
I
Don't
get
want
it.
to do one.
I wouldn't do it either. I mean, We'll see what happens though. There's
Oh
gonna
yeah.
be lots of new music coming out, and I'm pretty
Oh,
excited to see what people come up with. It's
I
definitely a good time to be creative and work on your
and
passions and hobbies right now.
yep, and I have definitely gotten a lot of more reading in this year. I got a whole stack of books around. Like, yeah, some people are like, "Oh, with the relief, I'm gonna do this and that." It's like I paid some bills and I bought some new books to read. That's what I did with my stimulus check, and yeah, so the
At least
book,
you put it to good use.
yeah,
Bunch of people bought a bunch of useless shit. You know, I used it to actually invest in my equipment. I have a couple of lights set up, but I have like a better camera that I bought. I just haven't figured out how to use it as a webcam yet. And I got like a microphone, and so that's
yeah.
what my stimulus check
I
went
am a
to.
total I am a total luddite when it comes to technology. I suck.
I no, I suck with it too. So this is exceptionally challenging for me trying to figure out, oh my God, just trying to figure out how to edit videos was so tedious for me, dude. I
Oh,
literally looked up every little tool on YouTube to figure out how to use it specifically. And it's like,
I'm awful at that. And it's funny because so many bands online like overshare stuff. They have their Twitter account, they have Instagram, they have the Facebook, they post videos all the time on YouTube. We are so lazy about that stuff. And it comes down to the fact that, yeah, we are lazy about updating it. Two, we're older, so we're just not into, oh, yeah, we're going to shoot out a tweet or anything like that.
we're gonna shoot out a tweet.
Yeah, exactly. See, that's how hip. I don't even have my own personal Twitter. I have the band Facebook and I have my own Facebook that you see how my Facebook page is. I just mostly share music that I enjoy. That's about it.
Mhm.
So it's very low key. And to an extent, part of me is like, that's kind of a good thing because everyone overshares the creative process. And to an extent, I do remember the days where you didn't know that a new album was coming out until you saw the ad in the magazine or the video premiered,
Mhm.
or you didn't even know about a band. You saw the album cover stick out at you and it looked cool.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
awesome. Could be very hit and miss at the same time. My God, I picked up some shit over the years, but found more good than bad, but there was definitely some clunkers in there too. But I remember stuff like that, and to an extent, I'm kind of glad that we only really put stuff online when we need to. So we're definitely going to. We keep saying we should do more. We should do more, and then we're like, yeah, yeah, we should, and then we don't. Well,
That's funny.
we all have lives too, so it gets
Yeah, you're like a grown ass adult man with
yeah,
families and
yeah, families,
responsibilities and
jobs, the whole nine. Like a lot of us lucked out in my band with this. My guitarist already worked from home to begin with.
oh,
So
lucky him.
nothing changed for him whatsoever. Bass player basically he would work in machine shops, but he also mostly was moving towards trying to work from home with he does guitar and amp repair, and he
Mhm.
has a little shop in his garage, and basically he's been doing that full time. My drummer does a lot of construction work, and so he was still working too. We've all been able, yeah, hours have been hit a little bit for like me and my drummer especially, and but overall we've all worked through this whole thing, and so for us with the pandemic, the thing that's hurt kind of the most was not rehearsing like we were. W- So it's been a little frustrating with that, but some of us being older, some of us have had health issues. I'm not one of them, thank God, with the health issue part with that. But I want my bandmates to be okay. They're my brothers. They're like the other older brothers I never had outside my actual brother Josh. So you know, they're my family up here. So I want, if they don't feel comfortable or if they can't or they need to reschedule, I'm more than understanding. We all are on that.
Mhm. That's good.
So, and knowing that we're probably not going to be able to play out in a while has kind of slowed down in our creative process, but also us being at an age where we've all been in bands that have tried to make it before, and we're basically we do Bloodborne for fun. It's a hobby, but we take it seriously. We have all said if we met like even a decade ago, if we met it and started a decade ago, we probably would have still tried it because we really are very proud of what we've done with the band. I love the songs we've written. I still get so excited when I hear our, even when I have it on my iPod, and when they come up on shuffle at work, I'm like, fuck yeah, all the time.
That's awesome.
It's yeah, I still get excited, and like when I hear new riffs, I'm like, cool, cool. All right, keep it coming, keep it coming. I want to hear more. So it's still there. It's definitely just been hindered enough this year that it wasn't as pressing. Now,
Right.
if things hadn't gone the way they had for everybody, yeah, we probably would have. Because last year we played more shows last year than we've had, and we've been a band now 5 years. This past October, we've been around for 5 years now, and been playing out for about 5 years. We started playing show. I was the last one to join the initial lineup in October 15, and we started playing shows that December. And it didn't take me long to write lyrics for most of the songs. So I got most of them except for like Execute the Traitor. That was like the one out of the first batch of songs we had that I did not finish initially before we started playing, but eventually did. But uh, yeah, I it's fun to play. It does, I feel, keep me young in a way, but also I see people that are our age that still have the mentality that they're gonna make it, and it's like you don't even leave the state. Or I think all of us have been in bands, as I said, tried to make it. We've been in different scenes. We've all been there. So for us, it's just we're doing Bloodborne solely for the love of the music. We enjoy each other's friendship and we have a great time together. And that definitely makes it fun. And I that's been the thing I have missed the most this year is having that fun
Mhm.
because of all this. And it definitely has been very frustrating. Sometimes it can get depressing, but at the same time, I know it's not like we're done. We
Mhm.
haven't thrown in the towel. It's just been kind of on hold.
Right.
And because of that, it's just been, but still, it's just like, all right, hopefully we need to start going again. Come on, come on, come on, come on. So, and it being winter, like it gets dark here at 4:30.
Jeez.
Yeah, this is one of those states that does not need daylight savings at all. It's like, why the change? It's now dark at 4:30. If we didn't fall back
Yeah.
an hour, it just get dark at 5:30 instead. But it's still 5:30.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous.
That is pretty ridiculous.
It's so and it's so that's why I say a lot of black metal pops up here because yeah, winter is cold and yeah, it can get bleak. A couple of years ago, my buddies in Intronaut toured through here, and I went to see them. And
Mhm.
one of them asked me, was like, "So, what's it like living in this Stephen King's home state?" I'm like, "There are definitely times you feel like you're living in one of his damn stories, and it makes sense." I Where I first moved out here was more in the backwoods area of the state, and
Mhm.
walking the dogs that my ex girlfriend and I had there. Sometimes, certain time fall, it gets really foggy and misty. And
Mhm.
yeah, when you're standing out there with your pets, and you're just like, "Holy shit, something is going to come out of this and fucking kill us." And it's like, all right, makes sense. Or like the weird, creepy, messed up characters in Stephen King's books, like,
Mhm.
oh, he had a hand of glory that he kept hidden in a Bruins mug from the 80s. Yeah, that shit's not made up. Those people are here. There is a level of weirdness in New England that is definitely different than the weirdness of the South or even California. It's definitely its own kind. And me being into history, I've only been to Salem once since I've
Mhm.
lived in this, and I know the history and being interested in history, I wanted to visit more. The only time I've been to Salem was to play a show there, so I didn't actually get to spend time and go explore and check
Mhm.
out stuff. But yeah, like the cemeteries here are almost all old. There's old ones everywhere. Like you find
Mhm.
stones from the colonies, and it's a
Yeah,
different
that's
kind
cool.
of. There's a deeper history and a deeper sense of when you think of the darker side of it that is more just present and just seems like since you've lived and grew up in California, the darkness there doesn't feel as real. It didn't feel as real to me. It just felt more like we want to find the darkness felt more manufactured by the environment.
That's a good way to put it.
It's that was definitely more urban with more just all that. Here it's
Like
like
cold and dissonant.
yeah, it's very cold, it's very bleak, it feels ancient, it feels old,
Cool.
and oh, I love it. It's
Yeah,
great.
I can feel the energy from that just by the way that you're describing it, and it feels pretty fucking cool.
Like
Like
in all
Sleepy Hollow or some shit.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I have a friend that from Tennessee that now lives in that area of New York,
Cool.
has actually been through what was considered Sleepy Hollow, and I when I moved here, I actually instead of going up the east along the coastline, which would have been probably a lot quicker,
Mhm.
having a car loaded with all my stuff, I didn't really want to travel through New York City and DC to get here. I went up actually through I went up through Kentucky, Ohio, through the little notch in Pennsylvania, and drove
Mhm.
through upstate New York and across Vermont and New Hampshire to get here.
Mhm.
Going through upstate New York is very similar to living around here. It's got that old vibe. It's got that you can feel that creepiness
Mhm.
to an extent. Like, ironically, our the title of our album, "Bleed the Week," that whole song
Mhm.
came out of my. Actually, I give a lot of credit to that to my bass player's girlfriend, Sylvia. She is a author, and she wrote a short story called
Mhm.
"Bleed the Week," and I give her a lot of credit for the idea of that title. She said, "You can use that title." I was like, "Cool," and she actually gave me the first two lines for that one of the verses for that song that she had a dream about with that to do with her short story, and that story is very Lovecraftian. That song is a very left. And the song ended up being very Lovecraftian. It's about my only one we have right now that's not super real world based, but because of how I wrote it in that Lovecraftian vibe, it still feels like it could be real because it's basically about mankind destroying ourselves, which we're very good at doing.
Mhm. Seems to be
And,
what
be-
we're best at.
and because of that vibe at the same time, it feels appropriate for a Lovecraftian song from a band from New England. Feels kind of appropriate.
Mhm.
I have friends that live down in Rhode Island where he's from, and I know all the problems with Lovecraft at the same time because, as I said, I'm a history dork. I love it,
Mhm.
so I know all this stuff. But it's just like it definitely it makes I get why the vibe of his writing became the way it did living here, and I get where Stephen King's came from. New England is it feels even living Portland is like the next to Boston's like the second biggest city in New England, really.
Mhm.
And I haven't even been to Boston yet. I'm such a listen, I don't like big cities anymore anyway. So, but Portland's old. It's been gentrified, but it definitely has a lot of that old world feel. And it being a port city, obviously, I've gotten it at night. It's weird, and ironically, right before this, basically the countrywide shutdown when it happened in March, I was at a show in Portland, and it was the first time in ever since living here that downtown Portland was basically deserted because the
Hmm.
venue was down in downtown, and it was just like I was like, "Holy shit, this looks apocalyptic. What the fuck is going on?" It was weird to see,
Yeah, I've noticed that too.
and so seeing that and just thing is like, wow, there are times being into heavy metal prepares you for certain things, but then at the same time, that with my love of history and all this is like, okay, well, we'll see how things are going to get handled. Probably exactly how I think it's going to go. Yep, it did, and thank God for. Uh,
It's
wow.
definitely been a shit show.
Oh, it's just been like every day something new, and it's just like, what's going to happen next?
So over it.
Oh, I am too, but at the same time, I'm also trying to be as patient as possible and knowing, as I said, knowing that I'm still been working the whole time. I feel way luckier than I know some people have dealt with everything. I take that as like a blessing. And it's like, okay, cool, cool. Still have a roof over my head. I'm still working. I'm still eating. I'm okay. And so, because yeah, I early on I was a little concerned about getting, especially when I was seeing people starting to really panic, and you could tell that they were getting anxious and that
Hmm.
they weren't doing the
Yeah.
process. I did start wondering, all right, am I gonna get anxious? Am I just gonna start getting let my mind wander to the darker waters of my own thoughts, and am I gonna sink into a depression? Yeah, those came up. I totally did worry about that at one point, but then I was like, well, you've been combating them for a while now. Keep doing what you've been doing. So anytime dark thoughts have been coming up,
Hmm.
I don't let them pull me under. But I also don't ignore them either, because
Hmm.
I know that's something that a lot of people do. They It's like, oh, I can't. That to an extent, that whole to- positive thoughts only. That to the extent that toxic mindset is like
Yeah.
to be good all the time. It's okay to. That's the other thing, guys, especially men, especially you fellow guys. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be depressed. It's okay to feel like, hey, am I fucking up? Am I failing? That's normal. Don't suck it up.
Thank you.
Oh my god.
Thank you.
Never suck that shit up. It's okay. But and it's hard because and you have to figure out how to do it. You have to learn to like, yeah, it's okay to have those thoughts, but what the trick is trying not to let them sink you at the same time. That is hard. And I don't have any good advice on that. I don't know how to explain how I've been dealing with it. I'm sure part of it has been going to a therapist.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. If
It
the therapy has been
Yeah.
helping you deal with that.
Oh yeah, it does. And just also just knowing that it is normal. It's okay to be that way. And going back to growing up with parents that encouraged it, and I'm glad they did, because I've always wondered, what if my parents were like everyone else's parents? What if they were like, oh, you got to play sports, you got to do this, you got to dress normal, don't
Hmm.
express yourself, it's not okay, you can't be weird, you got to like the normal stuff that kids like, then I tell my kids that I encourage them all the time. Like my daughter's big, she loves to write and she loves to draw, and I encourage it all the time. Like, keep it
That's
up,
awesome.
keep it up, do it. And they're definitely probably would be considered weird kids, but at the same time, I like embrace the weirdness. Our whole family is fucking weird. We're none of us on either side of the family is normal. You know, we all have not normal hobbies. So
God
screw.
forbid you're actually talented and educated.
Yeah. Oh, one of the most
Such a freak.
the one. I've seen, and I'm sure you've seen this, is like, what is the most insulting compliment you've ever gotten? One for me, and I get this one a lot. I've gotten this one a lot over the years. Is like, you look a lot more intelligent than you appear.
Wow.
Because everyone has those stereotypes from the media, news, movies, TV, film, and
Mhm.
even to an extent, yes, some of those cliches about metalheads are true. But yeah, they have that. They think I'm going to be like some Hesher, Hellraiser, beer drinker, troublemaker, and I'm like, nope, you're going to catch me at home either reading, listening to music, or watching some kind of geeky show. Like it might be a sci-fi TV series, history related. Fuck, I'll say it. I'll even be might be watching a fucking anime show. I don't fucking care.
Hey man, Castlevania was badass.
Yes, it
I
was.
was just rewatching it recently.
I did too, actually.
Yeah, that shit's good. I'm usually not a big anime fan, but some of those are fucking really fucking
I'm
cool.
usually pretty picky, and my introduction to that was like stuff like Ghost in the Shell and
Yeah, like that would
Ninja
be
Turtle.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that. But my daughter's into that stuff, so that was something I was like, all right, I'll check out a couple more, and yeah, I like that stuff too. I have found some good ones, and there's some others I'm like, I've heard good things about, and I will try to watch them. Like, nope.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, same
it
here.
depends on the story, depends on the art style. Like most
Yeah,
media,
the art style is important also.
and that's like a lot of media. I like a lot of animated stuff, and being a parent, especially now at my with the age I am, almost being 40, there's a lot of that people from the 80s are now growing up and they're now creating everything. So they know that people are starting to have kids, but so knowing that the parents are going to be watching with the kids too, they throw in some stuff hidden for the adults to enjoy too. And yeah, there's been some kids shows where I'm like, I like this show, and people are like, why? It's like, that's a kid show. It's like, yeah, but it's written for the whole family, so there's stuff hidden in there for adults
Oh
too.
yeah, definitely.
And thank
Definitely.
God, because yeah, there's definitely been some shows I'm like, you kids want to watch what? Okay, but I don't want to stifle the kids. I don't, and them they're both teenagers now. It's 17. I got a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old now, so
Yeah, you
I
couldn't
remember
stifle
that.
them if you tried.
No, and they're both really smart kids too. So I don't stifle them. I encourage them to be weird, and I tell them to embrace their weirdiness. Don't screw what everyone else says. And their grandparents are the same way. They tell them to embrace it, and
That's
so yeah,
awesome.
my family is very good about that. And because of that, my kids have issues from my ex's separation and all that, and them living with their grandparents. So my kids have been in therapy for years. Thank God. I'm glad they have therapy. It's
Good.
good. I think more parents should let their kids go to therapy. I have my last ex girlfriend, her parents did not understand her issues for years.
Hmm.
They finally started dealing with understanding more in the last couple that they had,
Hmm.
but no, they were definitely more old school than my parents, even
Hmm.
though her folks are younger than mine. It was just I don't I see what was normal for me was considered abnormal for a lot of people I knew, and I was just so because but I didn't have a cookie cutter life either. So it was just it's always been weird to me. Like, what? Your parents wouldn't let you do? No. Like my bassist told me, like, yeah, back in the day, I came home from school one day and mom had, because she'd seen all the Satanic Panic shows happening, she took all my stuff and destroyed it and burned it while I was
Oh,
at school. I
dude.
was like, are you serious?
Yeah, my
Eh,
mom did that too, sort of. She didn't burn it, but she grabbed all my shit and she like took it away. And she even took away my creepy paintings. Like she took down my door. It was rough.
Yeah, I had none of that. And yeah, my parents have had very considered conservative jobs
Hmm.
compared to a lot of people I knew.
Man, that's
Job. They were more, their parents were more blue collared. I had teacher and minister. Yet they were like, "Oh, you're getting it. You're getting into comic books. Okay, cool. All right. Here's the weird thing.
well, you lucked out, my friend.
I did. Here's where like literary heroes. Okay, my dad, minister, very
Hmm.
well educated, went to Vanderbilt University Seminary. That's where
Hmm.
he went to seminary, was Vanderbilt in Nashville. You know, that's a very prestigious school. My dad's favorite comic book character, Conan the Barbarian.
Really?
Yep, because he
That's
grew up
cool.
reading all the old Howard stories back when he was a kid.
That's
You know, so
awesome.
he's the one that got us into comic books. So he took us to the comic. As I said, yeah, my parents' hobbies with what they did totally different. So I think that's why I'm like, oh, I'm so. I've told Dad numerous times, like, Dad, I'm so glad you were not like other ministers, and he knows, and he will laugh because he knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Your dad
He,
sounds cool.
yeah, Dad, he's been to a metal show. When we it wasn't Kedishead, but my brother was in playing bass for another of our friends' bands. He was filling in, and my
Hmm.
dad was out visiting us. It was right after my son was born, so he was visiting so he could meet his grandson.
Hmm.
And Josh had a show with his band, so Dad and I went too. And this being a friends band, we both did Kedishead in this band, Flatline. We both did cover. We both covered the same Pantera song after the
Oh,
but
whoops.
no, but it worked out because we were friends. When if we were playing a show and they were in and the vocalist was in the audience, I'd be like, "Hey, Travis, come on, we're gonna do Pantera. You know what to do." He'd get up. We would both do vocals. If they were doing a show and I was in the audience, he would do the same thing. And because my brother Josh was filling in for bass for him,
Hmm.
he was like, yeah, we'll do. And Josh brought up the point that, hey, our dad's here and he's never seen either of us play live. And they're like, all right, we will purposely play our cover of Domination and we'll get Nate up there to play too. So dad could see both of us perform.
That's cool.
Yeah. So my dad has seen me play, has seen us both play live. And it's cool because afterwards he was like, that was really cool because I could see the transformation as how he put it. I definitely am a different person on stage than I am normal. I'm not like this. I definitely have, you have to put on the persona. All frontmen have the persona. I heckle the audience. I'll give them shit if they're not doing anything. But I got up there and I was smiling a little bit. I can't help it. I'm getting invited up and my dad's in the audience. So yeah, it's cool. But as soon as the music kicks in, nope, hit the spot. And so he was very he found that fascinating. He thought it was interesting. So
That's cool.
years of growing up in a open-minded house and being encouraged to be embrace your emotions. And so yeah, I'm not the typical and yeah, I watched your first interviewee, and part of me was like, when he was talking about how his guitar style is more influenced by like blues and bluegrass, I was like, all right, I totally know where he's coming from because lyrically and vocally, I'm not I am influenced vocally, obviously, by metal musicians, but not with my writing style. I don't do a lot of the well, I do some typical metal cliche stuff, but I try to find a new way to do it. So it's not I'm still beating the same horse, but I'm beating him in a much more creative way. So instead of beating him with a stick, I am beating him with an axe instead because I want to challenge myself because of all that.
So
So
you're chopping him in half.
yeah,
You're
slowly but surely because
That's a
it's gonna
terrible
take a
joke.
while. It's gonna take a while. But so that having that background, I think, influenced the idea of like, okay, I'm not afraid of therapy. I'm not afraid of the fact that no, I feel like shit. I need help. I feel like shit, but I can't let anyone know. And I have like, I guess another thing is like my drummer tell every time we have a practice, I get a big hug from him. I get he tells all of us he loves us. He's more we're all like that. So I will admit, Russ, my guitarist, he's a little bit Mr. Stoic. He is more probably the more traditional Mr. Metalhead. He really is. We made it. I made a joke. It's like, my name's Russ. I listened to this. I listened to 10 bands. And he thought that was fucking hilarious. But it works. Like I come from my all these different influence. My drummer is actually was in hardcore punk bands when he was growing up. He got into metal way later. Ace, my bass player, is the same. He's kind of like me. He listens to a little bit of everything, but he is also the one in the band that has some influences that the rest of us that don't have. Like Russ, Bruce, and I aren't all the biggest black metal fans, but Asa is a big black metal fan. Like he loves Enslaved. He loves Emperor, Mayhem, all the classics. He loves that stuff. He likes finding some of the newer stuff. But at the same time, like me, he will go down the well of doom metal and sludge, like go all out. And we've even joked about, we've even discussed it'd be fun for us to do like a post-punk gothic band because
Oh, that would be awesome.
we love that stuff. I can actually sing.
I'd like to hear you like do clean vocals, you mean?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can sing.
I like to hear that.
I was in choir back in the day in my
Of course you were.
church's youth choir. Even when I was like 15, I was one of the bass singers. It was me, my older brother, and one other kid. We all had the deepest voices.
Never would have known. Learn something new every day.
The problem is though, I can't. This is to an extent. I'm kind of my friends and bands that actually made it. I knew like in this moment, I knew they would make it because their vocalist. Not only is she strikingly gorgeous, but she could scream and sing.
Yeah, that's really hard to do. I'm still working on that.
I can't do it. I because
It's
I tried.
hard.
Because with
It's so
Kedsa,
hard.
we used to do a Faith No More cover because
Mhm.
we're all big Faith No More fans. So, and it was one of their heavier songs, but it'd be Mike Patton. So some of it, yeah, is more screamy, and then there's going to be some singing in it because it's Mike Patton. He can do both. Yeah, first we tried it, and initially it was just me doing both. My voice is like one or the other, dude.
Hmm.
I can't go scream into la. Nope.
Mhm.
My voice is like you're gonna stick with it all the way through with either one.
Yeah, the transition part is just so difficult.
So to an extent, I'm kind of envious of people that can do that because it's like,
Mhm.
how the fuck do you do it? So,
I can relate to that a little bit.
yeah,
I think with practice I could get it down. But it's
I've
more so
tried.
like I can sing forever. It's just the screaming part
Mm.
that I struggle with,
Well,
unfortunately.
I can do both, but I can only I'm either doing one or the other.
Yeah, yeah,
So my compromise, and I've done this in both bands, is I've done in our song "Deformed Dying God." I actually have a spoken word part, and it was cool while recording because we're doing that and we're trying to and we just had we recorded with Steve Austin, so that was awesome. Steve Austin, I can't say enough kind words about that man. He made us feel so at home. It was so cool to record with him. But we came to that part, and it was just like he was like, "I have an idea. I want to see if you're down with trying." I'm like, "All right, what's up?" He's like, "I have this microphone. It is called a copper phone. It does only one thing, and it's something weirdos like me and Jack Black like and Jack White like to use." I'm like, all right. So he pulls it out, and I was like, all right. So he plugs it in, and he's like, all right, put on the headphones, hear what you sound like. And I was like, start talking, and I hear it, and it gives you that weird kind of transistor kind of old timey recording sound, like if you're
Mhm.
listening to like an old radio. I was like, this is fucking cool. All right, yeah, let's do it. And I did do the spoken word part in that song like that, and I'm like, fuck yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly what it needs. Since we recorded, it used to be when we did that song live, when it came to that part, I would do kind of like an aggressive spoken word, but still do it kind of growled. But since we recorded it that way, I do it in like I do it spoken word, but basically I take my hand over the mic like this and make
Mm.
it kind of like an echoey chamber, and it makes it sound closer to the recording. And it's like, all right, that's my little thing I throw in there because I don't do all the gutturals all the time. I throw in my mids, I throw in the highs
Mhm.
because I have the range. I'm gonna want to show it off. Like initially,
Yeah, and it just creates
they
for more dynamic with the
yes,
music. It gets boring
yes,
if you just do the same thing all the time.
yes, and I already know for a fact it gets boring for me. It's other people can do it, and I fucking love it. That works for them, but for me, I have to have that variety. If I can use it, I'm gonna try. So yeah, and Russ put it best. Like he's like, there are times you did some stuff that initially I was like, what the fuck? I don't know if I like that, but now we've done it enough. I'm like, I can't hear it any other way, and it works great. I love
Mhm.
it. And that was something in the past with the one member, which is like he was wanting he wanted to see my lyrics, and I was like, yeah, I'll let you see him, and I never did. He was going to be a little bit more critical. He was more of like, we got to be this. Oh, the rest of us were like, we kind of really don't want to be that. And he was wanting me to be kind of like brutal death metal, and I was just,
Yeah.
that's not me.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna try it. Like that's one thing I love.
I'm
It
not gonna, cause I don't wanna.
exactly. It's like that's why I love watching interviews with George Fisher from Cannibal Corpse because I see him and he's just like, "How's it going, guys?"
Yeah, he's all jolly and shit. He's
He's
so
just
nice.
like the he's like totally honest. Like I go shopping at Target for my daughters all the time, and I get all this stuff for them, and it's like, thank you, George. Thank you so much for showing everyone that yes, you're just as dorky as me, and it makes me feel so good.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, thank you, George. Oh, because it's like, yeah, he's corpse grinder on stage and intense as hell, but then off stage, he's just like, how's it going, guys? Thanks for having me. Just friendly. Everyone I have met that has a big name, thankfully, has been cool as shit. Has been as nice as I've heard, or nicer than I thought was going to be. And that's from all different styles too. Like my brother used to work at my brother's worked with some big names. He's worked with like Linkin Park, Avril Lavigne, while at the same time has also worked with Cynic, Anthrax, Armor
Nice.
Saint, and so I've quick fun story. We were going to see ISIS play in LA, Knitting Factory. So I went to the studio where he worked, which was NRG Recordings, where a lot of those bands recorded their big hit. Like Korn did "Follow the Leader" there, Limp Bizkit did "Significant Other," Papa Roach did their debut, Evanescence worked there. My brother used to work for Evanescence as a little guitarist exclusively for a while there too. So I go there to meet up with him because he's finishing up, and we're going to take the subway down to the Knitting Factory from there. So I get there and get buzzed in. I'm sitting there waiting. And I'm like, I recognize some of these people. And I realized, oh yeah, that's the dude from Papa Roach. It's their front man. And he's like, he's being all jovial talking. And he's like, hey man, how's it going? I was like, hey, how's it going? He's like, you here to record or do we need to get out of your way so you can? I was like, no, I'm waiting for my brother Josh. And he's like, oh, Josh, he is so cool. He's such a nice guy. What you doing? Oh, that's my brother. And oh, what are you guys doing? We're gonna go check out ISIS here in a bit. He's like, oh, I've heard ISIS. Cool, nice. And I'm like thinking, he's heard ISIS. All right, whatever. And then he starts complimenting me on my tattoos, and it's like, those are really cool and different. I like those. What is that? It's like, oh, it's my daughter's name in Sanskrit. And he's like, that's totally fucking cool. I've never heard anyone having a Sanskrit tattoo, and just really friendly and nice. And all I could think of in my head is like, yeah, you're really nice and friendly, but man, do I really not like your band?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's weird, but at the same time, it's just like meeting these people that were famous in the industry. Some of them like, yeah, I'm not a fan of your band, but you, I like. Yes, I wanted you to be a dick, but you're really cool, so I can't say that now.
I wanted you to
So,
be a dick.
yeah, it's so much easier to think these people are going to be dicks. It really is, and some of them turn out to be really nice. So then part of me, I get, maybe it is because of my Christian upbringing. I feel now afterwards like he was really nice. Man, I kind of feel like a dick for hating on his band so hard.
No, I mean, you're allowed to
Uh,
separate the artist from the art. You know, it's a common term that we use in the black metal community to excuse the pieces of shit that create a lot of the music that we love.
oh, I know. Trust me. Oh, yeah, I'm sure you're familiar with the big one that happened again late recently. I'm sure with that.
Which
Not
one?
oh, the Inquisition one that just happened recently.
Oh yeah. I mean, that
Oh,
wasn't too that was a little while ago.
well, they just released a new album. They got another label signed them, and it's kind of like part of me was like, well, I kind of was hoping that metal would draw the line somewhat. Well, we haven't in the past, so we let Far get away with stuff. We let Tim Lambesis from As I Lay Dying get away with his shitty shit with the
Right? Didn't he? Wasn't he trying to
oh
kill his wife?
yeah, yeah, trying to hire
Yeah.
and yeah. So part of me is like, I was hoping that we would take not supporting a guy that confessed to having child porn on his computer.
Yeah.
But does it really surprise me that some people are okay with it still? No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
You know,
It doesn't. But
Varg's a
at the same
racist,
time,
sexist.
part of me was just like, oh god damn it.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't listened to Inquisition since that whole thing happened. Maybe because it
I
just strikes a chord personally, but like I can listen to Burzum all day, you know what I mean? So I
as
think
this,
it just depends on the individual.
I guess, but yeah, it was just kind of like, ooh, really? So we're gonna go there too, huh? All right. Well,
Yeah. It's
yeah,
always it's
that's
always my people. I'm so sorry. Why
it's
are we like this, guys?
it's either black metal or the brutal death slam deathcore guys that are just
Just fucking
what the
causing
hell?
trouble.
It's
What's
like
wrong with us?
the pop punk and emo guys. They're just as bad in like the emotionally manipulating way. It's like
Mm.
what the fuck? It seems like the nicest ones have all been the thrash guys. Apparently, the thrash guys are just. I've never heard anyone say anything really bad about the thrash guys,
Yeah, I think you're right.
Other than Mustaine's a bit of a dick. But that one's kind of obvious. I've always called Mustaine the first emo boy anyway. Sorry, metalheads, I'm not a Megadeth fan.
That's all right. I'm not a huge
I will.
well, I
I'll
used to be a
say
big
it.
Megadeth fan. I used to be Team Megadeth back in the day when I first started getting into thrash and stuff, but I really don't listen to a lot of thrash anymore. Sometimes
I'm a big Testament fan.
I
Testament's.
I was just about to say sometimes Testament. I've heard that their like
I,
recent stuff has been good. I just haven't really given it a chance. I
it,
haven't listened to them really since after Dark Roots of the Earth.
Brotherhood of the Snake's really good, but the one they came out with this year, Titans of Creation, holy shit,
Yeah.
that's so
Okay. All
good.
right. I might have
It's
to throw that back on. There's a lot of
well,
bands that I just never kept
oh, I
up
know
with.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came in and out with a lot of bands, and one my bane of existence that expands my love for heavy metal is once I started reading Decibel magazine regularly,
Mhm.
it rekindled some love for older bands that I had lost track of, like
Mhm.
Paradise Lost and My Dying Bride. I lost
Mhm.
track of them.
Oh, they
But that,
just came out with a new song. Actually, I've talked to Aaron a little bit on Facebook, and
I'm
I
friends
wanna
with him
reach.
on there.
What's that?
I'm friends with him on there too.
Yeah,
I've
he's a really nice guy, and I want to ask him if he'll like be on the show at some point. I just kind of want to get used to like interviewing people, and because I'm really new to all of this, and probably get
yeah,
a better mic or something, you know?
no, I get that. I totally get that.
Yeah,
He might be. I could see him being down. He seems like a really nice guy.
yeah, he seems pretty down to earth, and obviously they're
Oh,
like super depressing ass fucking music. So it's like, please tell me everything traumatic about your childhood, so we can all know.
it's just it's but yeah, I don't know, but yeah, no, no, the last. I think what it is with the last two Testament albums is Gene Hoglan and Steve DiGiorgio being in a band together.
Mm.
They haven't been in an album together since like
Yeah, that makes
individual thought
sense.
patterns. And that was the individual thought I heard individual thought patterns and symbolic by death at the same time.
Hmm.
Because Josh put songs from both of those albums on those old mixtapes.
I fucking love those albums, dude. I love Death. That was like my favorite death metal band. Them and Morbid Angel for the longest time.
I'm a death. I'm actually a latecomer to Morbid Angel. I never saw what the big deal was with them for the longest time, but I was like, all right, maybe I'll just give it another shot. I still don't see what the big deal about. I can see back in the day what Altars of Madness being
Yeah,
the big
that's what I was
deal.
about to say, dude. Altars of Madness.
Covenant and Domination are my favorite too, and I think
Those are also a couple of my favorites. All three of those are pretty solid for me.
I think it's Domination is my favorite, and I think it's because
It's a
it
close
has
call.
it's that sludgy
Yeah.
groove to it on top of them being Morbid Angel. I
Hmm.
think that's what attracted me was because it did have that different vibe, and it was just like, yeah, all
Hmm.
right, I get that one. All right, I get it now. I get it. But my top, and these will be my favorite, have been my favorite death metal bands because these were the first ones. Death, uh, Entombed, and also I'll throw Entombed AD because Lars is LG Petrov is the vocalist for both, basically. Carcass, Obituary, and Suffocation. Those were the first five death metal bands I heard, and those have always been some of my have been like top five death metal bands for basically since I was like 12, 13.
That's awesome.
And it's weird because I come in with band because of my age. I came into death metal after what were considered the classic albums. I came in with Carcass with Heartwork. I didn't come in with Symphonies of Cygnus and Necroticism. I came in with Heartwork. Obituary, I came in with World Demise, not Cause of Death. Suffocation, I came in with Pierce from Within, not Effigy of the Forgotten. You know, I came in later because when those older albums came out, I was like 8. So, you know, like Wolverine Blues is my favorite Entombed album, not Clandestine or Left Hand Path, because those were the albums I heard first. So, having, but I get why those are like considered classic albums. I still like them, they're still awesome, but they're not my favorites because they're not the ones I heard first. You know,
Hmm.
we all tend to attach with the albums we heard first. Like I have a lot of friends that when it comes to Sepultura, they're like Beneath the Remains Rise. So I said I came in with Chaos AD, and that album's fucking stellar. I don't care what anyone says. Anyone that hates on
I
Chaos,
enjoy it. I enjoy it, but it's definitely not fucking. No, I am thinking about the one that you're talking about. It's the one with the blue cover. I'm saying the one that I really liked was Beneath the Remains. That's what I was trying to say.
it's a
Sorry.
good one. It's a good one.
Hi.
But I like that one better after it got remastered.
Well,
'Cause,
mostly everything sounds better once it's remastered. I mean,
yeah, and as I said, my brother being in the industry, it sometimes ruins my enjoyment of older albums because I
mhm.
can hear the old compression, the old mixing, and it's just like, oh, this needs to be redone. So when some of those older albums have gotten remastered and or remixed, even remixed, and there's some that just really would need to be remixed to make me be like, okay, I see why you guys like that. And I'm also one of these people. It's like I don't care if it's on vinyl, CD, or if I can just fucking listen to it, just let me listen to it. I don't fucking care what. I'm not one of these vinyl only or I don't understand why the fuck cassette tapes are getting popular again.
Yeah,
My
who the hell even
paper
sets
out. They
where am I gonna play this ancient thing? Yeah, it's totally becoming.
they wear out so fast. I mean, shit. I remember growing up, and as I said, Paul Simon was what wanted us to play music. We wore out the album Graceland. We wore out like 3 copies of that on cassette growing up because we listened to it so much. The whole family, you know. So it's like, why are cassette tapes? Are we becoming that underground and obscure that you can only find our album on cassette? I. It's just like, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna try to? But it's all.
It's for the sake of nostalgia and for
It,
novelty's sake.
it really is, and to an extent, I understand the vinyl thing, but at the same time, it's like, everyone is like, you still buy CDs? Yeah, because vinyl came back. Hey, you know what's gonna happen next? Because of nostalgia, CDs. So I'm gonna sell out all this stuff, and some of you guys are gonna be looking for the CD version of this, and I'm already gonna have it. So fuck you.
That's funny.
Oh, well, it's bad when even your own dad's like, you still buy CDs, and it's like,
That's pretty bad.
they're cheaper than vinyl. Christ.
Yeah. And I wonder how much cassettes are going for now. They have to be cheaper than CDs.
Some of them.
Or do you think they'd cost more now because it's like
I don't know.
special? Because you
I
guys
don't,
think we're back in the 80s.
I don't know. I really don't know. But some of the bands I've seen is like, really? All right.
Yeah, all the fucking black metal bands are doing it. Which I mean, it's cool, but I'd like to be able to skip to the song that I want to play without having to rewind it and pause it and then that's not it. Rewind it again.
And wear it out by doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, your album better be fucking good if you're making me listen to it on cassette.
Yeah, it's like I have no choice but to play it all the way through.
Exactly. I can't sit there. I was like, yeah, because I used to make mixtapes. I remember that before doing the CD. I did the mixtape, and then we had the mixed CDs, and now everyone's like, oh, why don't you just stream it? It's like, because some of the shit I listen to is not on streaming sites. So I have my iPod. Sorry that I'm now out of date with having just an iPod. But at least I know everything that's played on it, I at least like, instead of being like, oh,
True.
you're listening to this Spotify playlist. And it's like, no, that one, no. Okay, that one's cool. No. I will forever not be with the hip popular thing. I've never have been. And I guess I still never will.
I'm okay with that. I think that's quite all right. Like it's just
and that's how, as I said, that's how I've always been. I've been the weird nerdy kid, weird oddball kid. So everything, I'm like, yeah, I'm basically an older nerdy weird kid.
I think you're a pretty cool nerdy old weird kid.
Well,
I'm sure you'd be fun to like, hang out with at a show or whatever. Like I think you'd be a cool guy.
Oh, I appreciate that. And as I try to stay humble because I've seen people, as I say, I've seen, being the vocalist, there's the joke of the whole lead singer's disease, the LSD, basically.
Oh, God.
And I have seen that where the lead singer thinks they're too hip or too cool, or they have the ego. And it's just
yeah, for sure.
Dude, you're in a local band.
I know.
Get off the fucking high horse.
Yep. And they'd be like, okay, well, I think we're gonna wrap it up in a little bit.
Okay.
So I finish what you're saying, and then I want to ask you a question.
Oh, well, like the whole get off the high horse, help your band load and unfucking load off the stage. Don't just walk off. Oh, I still get jokes about that, throwing that my way, even though I totally do help my bandmates. But,
dude, I used to help the band, like, you know what I mean? And I was one of the dude's girlfriends.
It's just like, just do it, because you don't want to be that band that just sits there and takes their time. Or like, I have all this drum stuff to take out, but everyone just left me here to do it by myself.
Yeah, poor fucking drummers, dude.
Oh my God, I feel sorry for Ruth. I always help him out as much as I can.
Help your drummer break down his kit.
Do it. Help take off your guitars and basses, rigs,
amps. Yeah.
Just take it down. It's okay. Don't be that front man. Stay humble. stay humble. And some of you guys definitely need to get into therapy. Holy fuck. Take it from a fellow vocalist who's in therapy. Go see a fucking therapist.
Thank you. I hope somebody's listening to this that really like needed it.
I hope so too. And it's just like, seriously, guys, it's okay. Admit that you're sad. Admit that you're depressed. And if it gets to the point where you need help, fucking go get some. Don't bury it in booze. Don't bury it in drugs. Don't bury it in sex, because you're just fucking ignoring it. You're not solving shit. You're compounding fucking everything.
Thank you. Yeah, I was gonna ask if you could give like some type of advice or if there's anything specific
Just,
you'd want to say,
just,
but that about covers it, I think.
yeah. If you feel like you need therapy, go. If you're scared to announce it to the world, you don't fucking have to. You can just go yourself. It's You don't have to let everyone fucking know. I know people that are in therapy that they don't want people to know they're in therapy. And I totally respect that. But they still go. They know they need to go.
Hmm.
Me, I have no problem admitting, yeah, I go to therapy. It helps out a lot to have someone to talk to and basically either confirm that some things I'm feeling is okay, or hey, I understand why you're feeling that way, but here's a way to look at it differently so it doesn't basically make you feel worse. It's so yeah, all I can say was when it comes to mental health, there's multitudes of there's therapy, there's medication helps people too. I mean, I've been on and off, but I'm off it now. But I have therapy. I have my other therapy, my band.
Hmm.
Those are my therapies. I have my therapist for normal stuff, and I have band for getting out it in a constructive way. That's the thing. If you can find a hobby that you can get out some emotions in a constructive way, and not a destructive way, that's the best advice I could give people.
That's the
Find
key right there.
a hobby. It doesn't have to be a career. Just find something that you feel is creative in, or and helps you relax and decompress from the stress, the anxiety, the depression, and use that. It's the one of the best things in the world. The years I was not in a band between 2009 and 2015, it sucked. I definitely started getting more depressed and anxious in those time frame. And since being in a band, I found that outlet again, and it was great. Getting into therapy, one of the best decisions in my life.
I definitely want to go to therapy. I just got to figure out some sort of way that I could like make payments or something. 'Cause it's
You,
just
yeah, as I said,
150 a week. Like, ain't nobody can afford that now.
I know.
It's
As I said,
ridiculous.
as I said, I lucked out with mine. He worked something out to where it's that I can pay, and so it depends on the therapist. Some people are very clinical about it, and some people that you can tell they honestly want to help people.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
got lucky and found someone that he focuses on helping people more than the this is my job, and this is what I get paid, and because I have this job I have to get paid this. He's like, no, I want to help, so we'll figure it out. And we
Mhm.
did, and thank God. And yeah, I think I have a couple more weeks until I have therapy again. But if I ever need to go more than once a month again, I have that option. He's like, if stuff goes wrong, reach out and I'll answer as soon as I can, and we'll get things figured out. But so I guess my closing statements: if you're depressed, anxious, stress, anything else, PTSD, any of that stuff, go get help. Don't self medicate. I've seen so many people self medicate, and it's made all those issues worse. It never helped. So that's just from my experience. But
Mhm.
so yeah, guys, go see therapists. especially you fellow frontmen. You guys are usually the most fucked up members of the band. You're the
Prob-
you're the ones singing. You're the ones writing majority of the lyrics. You're the ones that need to go to therapy.
Oh my God. So fucking true. So true. Are there any plugs that you want to give?
Uh, well, if you basically with the stuff I gave you, there's our. If you want to check out what I do in Bloodborne vocally, check out our Facebook page and we're on Bandcamp. You can download the album. I need to figure out a way to open up an online store because we do have physical copies and we have some shirts, and I just got to figure out how to do that. As I always said, we're all kind of Luddites on that stuff. But
Same.
yeah, and you can even look up our album Bleed the Week on YouTube, and it's plays on there. So
I'll be
just
sure to include a link to that in the description, and then I'm going to be plugging your song right after this episode. Maybe do like a little short clip in the intro just to kind of hook you bitches in so you can check out how fucking badass Nathan's vocals are. Yeah, I
appreciate it.
really enjoyed talking to you, dude. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
taking the time to like
no
be
problem.
open
Thank
about
you.
your struggles, and just normalizing going to therapy, especially for men, I think is extremely important. And I hope it really helps somebody out that's listening to this right now. Thank you guys so much for being here.